4 minutes or so, 2 minutes actually. It's 2 minutes to 2, and it's a Sunday, so we're all here. Of course, we all have to be here. It's very important. It's a grey day. We're supposed to get thunderstorms. There's a bit of blue sky. There's a little bit of t-shirt weather coming, and then suddenly the t-shirt weather goes away, and it gets cold again. It's weird. It's a weird sort of a weather, isn't it? It's not quite what we want it to be, being a Sunday, you know. And tomorrow, like, lockdown has ended for a lot of people, including me. I'm after swapping cars twice this week, not once, twice. And I've had the Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio. It's very hard. It's a lot of words in that. And we've had I have the Audi Q3 Sportback out there as well, with a diesel engine in it, which is very clattery. But the car itself is actually quite nice. I do like the look of it. I'm going to try and film that today or tomorrow morning before it goes back. Because tomorrow morning I'm getting another car, and I don't know what it is. The fleet is kind of working on it on its own. Let me know what you think of the new lighting, because I got a new big light up there, which is a great big thing. And I have my little light down here in the corner, and I got a light in little that comes with a little fan. Look at this thing. It's a little desk lamp, and it comes with a little fan. See? Little battery powered fan thing. Because it gets very warm in here sometimes when it's running. But the desk light is actually pretty good. It's got Kelvin on it as well, which I can do. Everybody can hear me. We're all okay. We're good. We're live. It looks good. I'm glad to see it. That's deadly. Had some questions earlier on which came in fairly early, and one of them was about an RS being on the road. Of course, YouTube has deleted a lot of the older ones. I don't know why it does that, but it does. Yes, the Ford Focus RS is probably one of the best performance cars. I don't like to call it a hot hatch so much. It's beyond hot hatch. A hot hatch is the Ford ST, the Focus ST thing. The performance one is the actual RS model. Also in the news, weirdly, 3 days ago, the ID3 has been driven from Volkswagen. They seem to hold. I was talking to people in the PR industry, and they're going, we didn't even know it was going to happen. It just happened. They just held their own little event and did their own thing, and nobody seems to be that interested, which is kind of weird. Cahill King says, who does vintage insurance for 28-year-old in Ireland? You're going to have to shop around for that. You're just inside that 25-year-old mark. They do this weird. Insurance companies just have us by the short and curlies. Let's be serious. Insurance companies have been ripping us off for years. They continue to rip us off now. They make all the rules. Do you remember the ads on TV the insurance companies used to have where they said, slow down, boys? You know, they had this young man and he'd go over the wall and he'd in this dramatic accent, he'd kill a young girl up against the wall. He'd flip over ditches and into gardens and kill children playing there. These extreme things, these were sponsored by insurance companies. So insurance companies were saying slow down, boys, backed by the RSA, who also sponsored those ads. And now insurance premiums for young people is absolutely astronomical. I'm still waiting for my bleeding refund from, well, I've been tweeting them and I still don't have it, and we're going to sort it out. Yeah, weeks later, they take the money from your account in the blink of an eye, but they don't give it back to you. We're on to the tax rant is happening already. We're also here to talk about Tesla being a CO2 polluter. If you've watched my Alfa Romeo video, which has caused controversy in the Teslarati nature out there, Tesla don't have any fleet CO2 to compensate for. Okay, so they're always under the 95 grams CO2. So they have credits, what are called carbon credits. And they can sell those carbon credits to companies that pollute a lot, like Alfa Romeo, who don't do any electric cars. And so Tesla now are a polluter in the car industry, just like every other car company, because they let Alfa Romeo, not let them, they sold them some of their credits. That's how that works. Also in the news today, I see reported that a coalition now has some sort of agreement or other. You know, there seems to be a bit of traction to what's actually going to happen. The Green Party want a 7% reduction in CO2, that was on the cards. Anyway, don't freak out about that one. That was already agreed by all of the parties. But I do see that they want to increase the carbon tax up to €100. That will mean an increase in fuel at the pumps. It'll mean an increase in everything, actually, because everything emits carbon at some point or another. So they're going to be increasing the taxes on pretty much everything. They want more public transport. The Green Party, if it wasn't led by a fella who went off and did the N-word in the middle of the Dáil the other day, and also wants a return of wild wolves in Ireland, I would probably back the Green Party, but I just don't find that they're really very well led. Anyway, vintage insurance. Someone will tell you who's looking for vintage insurance. There will be all the insurance companies do vintage at some point. You're probably best off talking to if you have, say, a Ford Escort, talk to the Classic Collector Vintage Ford group in Ireland. They tend to be pretty good, and they usually have a sort of a system set up already with some particular company. A lot of them do that. Camper Van Creations, Jamie's there as well. I have a motorbike insurance with Carol Nash. They did vintage insurance, but not sure if they still do. Most of them do. Most of the brokers are usually the best ones to go for. Sean Murray, hi Bob, in the future will all cars be made of aluminium? God, I hope not. We've had an Audi A2 which you could only get repaired at a specialist. Anyway, if it's a good thing, as far as I know, if there are damage, they can be repaired by a panel beater. Your thoughts, please. You can and you can't. Aluminium's kind of is actually quite flimsy when it's made very thin. It's quite easy to dent. So what they're doing is they're moving the bonnet line. If you watch the video I made with the chief designer of Mazda Europe, he'll tell you the explanation behind. They've moved the bonnet line up, so you see where the bonnet now only makes a sort of a horseshoe shape at the front, and then there's a gap to the front of the bumper. The bumpers are now made of plastic, and so they can deform, they can be snapped, they can break, they don't need repair, and they just replace them at this stage. And the bonnet itself which is metal and tends to be further up the car, is now out of range of being damaged by a frontal collision. Well, some frontal collisions. You can repair, you can panel beat to some degree some aluminiums. The problem is if you've got a very thin line running around your car in aluminium, like a lovely little shoulder line or something to cause a drop shadow, and you get another door hit that and it puts a little crease in it, that's very hard to fix, that bloody crease. It really is. But you can, on a lot of aluminium damage, you can use a suction pad. So the old way, when I was young, I just messed around, we used to get a plunger from your mammy's bathroom, and you'd do a plunger on the front of your car and pull, and it would pull the metal straight. But that was metal, obviously. Aluminium is a little bit more sensitive, but you can actually get a little pump system where you pump it up and it kind of sucks the damage out from like stone chips and stuff like that. Adrian Mortimer, afternoon Bob, looking forward to the broadcast. Fab video on the review of the Alfa Romeo Stelvio. Nice work. It is a bloody good car. I have to say that 2.9 Ferrari yoke is absolutely glorious engine. Pulls like a freight train. But not all the time. It's a very settled engine. When you're cruising on the motorway, you're just cruising along, moving around the town, you barely even notice that you've got 8 gears and 2.9 and 510-ish horsepower under the bonnet. You barely even notice it. But when you want it and you want to go, woof, you're gone and you'll never be seen again. Bob, if you were to binge watch one of these shows for a weekend, which would it be? Wheeler Dealers, Car SOS, or Top Gear? I love Ed China on Wheeler Dealers. That's about as far as it goes. I wouldn't be too keen on the replacements for Ed China. I found Ed China was an incredible tutor, a teacher. He actually tried to teach you how to do something. So I would definitely watch Wheeler Dealer, but the older ones, not the Americanized ones. Car SOS, I don't know whether that works for me or not, that Car SOS. I just have a problem with that thing. I don't know why it doesn't quite work. It never really gelled with me. I'd watch it if it was on and I flick over to the car is interesting, I'd watch it then. But usually they take something that should be just crushed and they turn it back into something fantastic and it's brilliant and there's lovely tears and like, oh, this meant so much to me. I prefer to make the car the star. But if I was stuck in a room with all of the old series of Top Gear up to when Clarkson finished, I wouldn't be terribly disappointed. There was a couple of weak seasons among them, but for the most part, it's actually pretty good. Mark Harrigan has become the first one I've seen pop up on the screen as a member, has become an apprentice mechanic. You can join memberships now on this channel. YouTube has enabled it for me. So under this video, you'll see beside the subscribe button, you see a little thing that says join. If you click that, you're taking into your ability to become a member. It's the same principle as Patreon, but it's slightly different rewards along the way. My intention is to run the two side by side. I don't want to lose Patreon. Patreon's been really good to me over the years. And I had an actual meeting with the people who run Patreon the other day, which is quite interesting. kind of interesting. They weren't very full of ideas, I have to say, what to do with Patreon, but they were there. But we have memberships now on YouTube, so it's a little easier for me to manage because I can see again who are the members, who aren't the members, and it also just goes into the revenue belonging to YouTube. So I get a lesser cut, but with enough people, it wouldn't really make a whole lot of difference. And a lot of people don't want to have Patreon, PayPal, YouTube, all these different means you can support. So whichever one you want to choose, there's links for every single one of them down below. And of course, I have to give a shout out to the main sponsor of this channel, who has sponsored this channel up and down over the years for the last few years, and it's brilliant, John Coleman, with Clearwater.ie. This video is proudly sponsored by Clearwater Technology, Ireland's market-leading water treatment chemical supplier. If you want to do what I do and broadcast to thousands, or even run it through a small business that has over 10 employees, then you need to get in touch with Co2, the Zoom specialist for Ireland. There's a link in the comments down below. Sorry, I just remember those ads are quite loud. Sorry, I'll get there, it's okay. Noel Griffin has become an apprentice mechanic as well. Thanks very much, you're very good. And William Hope has donated some money by Super Chat. You're really good. This is really good. Now, let me know when you're members. Let me know what you want as a member. I didn't want to make up too many different levels and too many different things. You could kind of try and become this, that, and the other. What I want to do is just kind of create a little area that you could be a member, and then tell me what it is you're looking for as to be a member. What would encourage you to support it more? What would encourage you to support less? What drives you away? Communication things. A lot of it is about putting community posts up, being able to put up posts individually on community tab that will allow you to be able to chat back and forward with the members. So hopefully that'll work out for everybody. It'd be really good if it does. Anyway, we better get back to the questions because we're going to fall behind again this week. Paul O'Connor, couple of things. Thank you for all the replies to my Facebook post, or a major service on the car, timing belt, etc. Great help. Quotes now from €1,000 to €1,500 for a job warranty, main dealer. If your car is under warranty, the main dealer is the best option. If you want to hold on to the maximum trade-in value and the maximum value of the car in the future, main dealer is the way to get it serviced. If you just want a decent service history, then it doesn't really matter. The history itself, as long as it's done in a authorised service garage, or at least a garage, not some Jimmy across, or some lad like me, not a qualified mechanic, but can service a car a little bit. That's a different. But there comes a point where the service history is worthless until the car is really old, and then the service history becomes very worthwhile again. So when a car becomes a classic, service history is like gold. If you can get I've seen guys pay over the odds for a car just because it has an A4 book beside it that contains every light bulb that was ever bought for it. That can be the difference between paying 10 grand and 20 grand for a classic collectible. So if you're at that level, the more you can hold on to, the better. I've seen guys hold on to receipts. I've seen lads hold on to absolutely every detail they can about the car that they have. So it's that's worthwhile. But for a standard car, you're just going to service, you're going to trade it in, come to a major service, you want your time belt done, the whole lot. If it's the first time it's ever done, it's always good to get it done at the main dealer, because you have that stamp, it's done, it's under warranty, it's all okay. But my car, when it's due next time belt, I'll probably do it myself. More than likely, it's too old, I wouldn't be bothered. Or I'll bring it to one of the local guys uptown, because I know a lot of the guys uptown. Some of the guys uptown are like ex-drift guys and stuff that I know them well. Not say I get it any cheaper, it's just I know them and I know their kind of work. I know I can rely on it. Word of mouth, lads. If you work in a garage, you work in a backstreet garage, or you're deciding to be a mechanic, or whatever it is you're going to do, word of mouth will kill or cure you. And I'm talking about overnight. Social media is an incredible tool, and I've seen guys who make a fortune and don't even have a Facebook page. Nothing. Just pure recommendations can get you a lot of money. Johnny Dub, afternoon Bob and lads. Bob, what are the chances of getting hold of a Julia GTA for a sling? Anyway, so I can come. I think it's one of the best looking cars we've made. A Julia GTA. Do you know if you could find one in Ireland? The problem is Alfa Romeo have all those cars, but Alfa Romeo Ireland probably never even imported the thing. You know, I know because I've seen it, and if anyone follows me on Instagram or on YouTube stories here as well, you would have seen the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio sitting up there in Dublin. It's about 70 grand to buy that one, and I would bite the back of your hand off to buy it. What a car. What an amazing thing. You need to have balls of steel to go up to Aldi in it, but it's an amazing car. But a Giulia GTA could be a bit trickier to get it right. Afternoon, Bob and Chas, says operator hookah man. Paul O'Connor, Elon is great visionary, puts his money where his mouth is. I think the plan is with Tesla to develop clean, low maintenance vehicles, then concentrate on evolving battery technology. At the moment, it's no worse than mining fossil fuels, but in time you may get similar power from hard water. Who knows? We are in the evolution process. Just my 2 cents. That's very true. We are currently evolving different fuel sources. The problem is it seems to be an us or them at the moment. It seems to be like EV or ICE. You have to choose between the two, when in actual fact that's just not the point. And as was pointed out in a couple of videos as well that I've done recently, where people say, you know, do you want to have horses back on the road, or what do you want to do? I have actually no objection whatsoever to pony and traps. Like, they were an amazing invention, but the problem was we used to beat the horses to death in the street. We're doing something similar to some of the crap cars we're putting out, some of the, you know, nearly forgettable yokes you see on the road here regularly. These kind of cars that are disposable, like some of them 2008, 2009 Toyota Auris, they were just made of tin. You know, it's a horrible little trundle about cars. That's effectively what we're doing with horses at the time. Now, the new horse is the electric car. That could be good for commuting. You know, if you get in the morning and your car has active cruise control and you're driving to work with a cup of coffee, but you might as well be driving an electric car as driving a big petrol V8, right? But at the same time, it doesn't mean you can't have a petrol V8 sitting in your garage if you want, or a V10 or V12 or whatever. I've had many text messages over the last few weeks asking which Ferrari they should buy under 100 grand, and there's loads of them you could get under 100 grand these days. But you're buying a V10, maybe even a V12, depending on which one you actually want to buy. They can get very expensive very quick. Like a set of spark plugs for them is 200 quid. So just remember that when you're thinking about buying these performance cars, even really old ones, again with like V6 and V8 engines. That's 8 spark plugs, and all long life burning ones. Zdenko's here. Paul O'Connor says, I won't be replacing my Superb anytime soon. Corona-19, recession, uncertainty, and 500,000 kilometre target. You're right. Fairness, no one knows where we're going to be next year. No one knows what the employment levels are going to be next year. No one knows what's happening within the car industry. Volkswagen just held a launch and didn't tell anyone about it. So everything is changing. Every little detail that you're going through all of the time is changing on a daily basis. And that uncertainty in a market immediately makes people regress in spending on luxury items. And luxury items tend to be cars these days, electric bikes rather than a bicycle. A foreign holiday down to Portugal, but instead they go to France, or to go to, you know, Poland, or to go to somewhere that's cheaper to buy things in. So there's a lot that's what happens. People do the same things, but they do it on a smaller scale. So the difference between that Audi Q3 Sportback diesel sitting outside the door is kind of, it starts at 40 grand but heads its way up there towards 50. That's the same price as an electric car, but that thing is huge. Like, it's a big car. The Q3 is not a small car. It's a bit tight in the back, but it's a big car, you know, whereas electric cars are not big cars. So the price of electric has to come down a little bit. And Tesla, who is always held up, and we're always slapped around the face with what Teslas are doing, and yet here they are behaving just like any other car company, and they're selling their carbon tax credits to make some money. In doing so, they're effectively being a CO2 emitter like everybody else. Eric Rogers here. Garrett Talbot. Johnny Dub reports of an e-crafter only managing 100 kilometers per charge with a load. We're a long way off yet. I've seen that same report. Don't have it officially, but yes, the e-crafter, and of course then we'll have the e-transporter. What do you call them? Maxis is the name of the company they've changed it to now. It used to be, it's a Chinese company. They operate in Dublin through Harris. They have already released small electric vans, which seem to be doing okay for them. They've got more of them on the way now, more of these electric vans. I think the Chinese market is going to rule when it comes to this. I think they're really going to just flood the market. I'll give you a good example of how the Chinese do it. Xiaomi is a company I know now because I have a phone below them. I use some headphones below them as well. Very cheap, bought them off GearBest. I don't have a link. I'm not an affiliate or anything like that. None of that sort of things. But if you watch what they do, they release a new phone, a brand new flagship phone every 6 or 8 months, maybe even less, sometimes 3 or 4 months. So they have a Redmi 9 and then they have a Note 10 and they have all these different ones. It's the flooding of the market keeps you in their realm and stops you buying a Samsung or stops you buying an Apple or whatever it is. So that's what the Chinese do. So what I suspect is going to happen is something similar in the car industry. They'll flood the market with vans, cars, small cars, tricycles, scooters, everything, anything batteries that they can sell, and just flood it until eventually they're just pilfering from everybody else in small amounts until eventually you find out one of them is like another Tesla. They're just swallowing up everybody. Mark Turner Smith, afternoon all, hope all is safe and well. Have you, I don't have coronavirus, I suddenly have a snotty nose. Anyway, after all, hope all is safe and well. Have to say yet again, ashamed to be in the UK, but yesterday's violent events in London and violence to all our police is not just England. I've seen reports from France and from everywhere else. I think there is an element of people capitalising on what's happening out there in the real world, in the normal world, and there's a lot of overflow of people freaking out about what's going to happen into the future. So I suppose there's an element of it. It's just pouring out onto the street, and that's pretty much it. It's going to happen, and it's going to continue to happen. Paul O'Connor has just become a qualified mechanic. Thanks, Paul. Good man. Glad to have you aboard, boy. There is a tier on the membership thing that you can go for, which is an expensive tier, and I know it, and I there's already someone else trying it, but it's there. And what I'll do is it gives you direct access to me. It would be really only if you're into trade. I think it would probably suit you better if you're in that sort of, you're buying and selling cars maybe, or you're a dealership and you're looking for direct advice. But basically it's adding me on Skype or a direct access to somewhere or another, the ability to be able to have singular conversations with me about the industry should you wish. Don't take it unless that's what you want. This is not going to be like a social chat. It'd be like an hour once in a while where you'll be able to pick my brains and all kinds of things. Or whatever you want to talk about. Jason Cave, afternoon Bob, but anyway, sounds like nudies now. Actually, I'll leave that in. Jason Cave, afternoon Bob. Hope you're all well and good. Work for the Alpha video. Thank you very much. Alpha video was very good. I enjoyed that. That was made and filmed this week. So we're in the same week of that filming. Because we hadn't had any new cars so long. I have a documentary on the Passat coming out. I have a documentary on Top Gear coming out as well. That's going to happen, even though Chris Harris has me blocked on Twitter. I don't know why he blocked me on Twitter, but I'm blocked on Twitter. Chris Harris. I should put it up. Famously blocked on Twitter by Chris Harris. It's funny. My God, I'm falling behind already so far. Jesus, I'm already 20 behind. I get there. Be alright. We'll blast through them now in a second. Paul O'Connor, Colin King, no answer to each other there. Richard Cullen, who is a member already. Good afternoon, Bob. Love the Alpha video. Thank you very much, Richard. Paul O'Connor meant heavy water, no hard water above. Heavy water, yes, correct. German, to shout out someone else now who has put in money there. Gareth. Half a preview up on the screen, so I only see your first name. Gareth Talbot, thank you very much. Sent money by PayPal. The links for all these things are down below in the comments, by the way. In the description of this video if you want to do it. Dermot Walsh, Johnny Dubb, are we live? We are. Peter Ukart has come along. Afternoon, thank you. Mark Turner Smith, I'm surprised Suzuki didn't go down the pooling route with another manufacturer rather than axe their bestseller Jimny outside supply. I see a conservative Japanese company like Suzuki tend to plod along very slowly, and then suddenly they do something cool, and then they plod along. It's like, here's a Jimny. The whole world wants it. We all want to drive it. Please, God, put it on the market. We'll all buy it. Suzuki? No. We're just going to stop making it and forget about it. It didn't happen. Jimny's now gone. That's Suzuki. Instead of doing anything useful. Very, very slow. I don't see a good future for Suzuki unless they actually kind of speed up a bit or do something interesting, because generally what they've been doing recently has been mediocre, apart from the Jimny. But then they didn't support the chimney. You know, they put it on the market and then it's like, nah. And then we go, why don't you make an electric one? Like, why don't you put one with the same thing, put batteries in it, let's go. No, don't think that'd be too much now. I can't read that name. Someone became a qualified mechanic, but it's in blue, so it's the same. Eric Rochford. I couldn't see your name there. It's in blue because you're an admin, of course, as well. Thanks, Eric. You're very good. Like I said, with the lights and things, I know you all said the lights look good, but these lights, I've been buying the bits and pieces to build up what it looks like. We're in high definition, 1080p video. This is all supported through Patreon, PayPal. I hope to change that camera out at some point. That is actually just a webcam. I'm hoping to replace that with a Sony camera that you can make into webcams, which would give me a better kind of bit rate going out as well, make it look nicer again. Just a little improvements along the way. You asked for the messy background to go. That's exactly what we've done here as well. We put in the new background here with the ID3 and stuff on the back. It's been really good fun for the last few weeks trying to fix things. Robert Madden is here. Jeff Carter. Johnny Dub has got that. 33 and a third says wait until the new Tesla Maxwell battery is released. Just wait until next year. Honest to God, if you wait till 2021, there will be such a level of stuff in the market. But I suspect the market will top out throughout this year. It's coming. I think it's not far away. Because what happens is, so you've got early adopters. It's like when Apple brings out iPhone 11, right? And everybody goes, wow, look at the 3 cameras and the things, right? Then iPhone 11 Pro comes out and the professional guys go, hang on a second, my camera's better than your camera, right? And a month later they go, there's an iPhone 12 on the way. Is there? I just bought this rectangular black thing a while ago, right? But people still go and buy the bloody iPhone 12, like telling Apple it's okay to continue doing that. So I suspect that's what's kind of going to happen with the electric cars. I think there'll come a point where it'll top out. It'll be like 4% of the market, and then it'll top out as people go, well, you know, I can't afford it and I don't really want one, and my car's only 4 years old, I don't really fancy changing it now, I want to hold on to another 5 years. And that's what's going to happen. And then you'll find this flattening of the curve. This is very relevant at the moment. The curve will flatten out and the market will depress slightly on electric cars, and the price will start to fall because they'll have to drop the price or people just won't buy them. And I think that's what's really kind of happening along the way. It's an interesting market to see what's going on. We've never done it before, so it's only based upon my own instinct of how markets, and particularly car markets, alter and change and make differences. Mick Mulcahy's here. Irish Foxhound says this world will be sadder without the exhaust note of gas guzzlers. You're absolutely right. A super chat has come in from is it more than 30 seconds since I started? Yeah, it is 25 minutes, so it should be okay. Shit happens when you is the name of the user who gave us some money there by super chat. Thanks. YouTube tell me I can curse after 30 seconds. I don't know why. I don't normally anyway, because I always think this is kind of like family stuff. I try and keep this so anybody could watch this. My daughters watch this, right? So even though they're downstairs, like, they could easily just walk in behind me here and watch it live if they want to, but they actually do watch online. 33 and 30 says the new Maxwell Tesla battery will have 1 million mile lifespan. You know, that sounds ideal in a real world. It really does. And I love the headline thing of, we know there's a 7-year, 8-year warranty on these batteries. They last 8 years. And you're thinking, 8 years? What happens to the rest of the car when we recycle the battery? What happens to the battery when it's recycled? Does it go on, or does it get chopped up into pieces and recycled that way? There's so many questions that are just so quickly just brushed aside by the fact it's like, oh wow, 1 million kilometers. We're going to get 1 million kilometers from this. That sounds ideal. What car drives 1 million kilometers? Anything. So rare to have anything even gets close to 1 million kilometers, apart from maybe a taxi or that Skoda Octavia we had a few years back. Peter says, hi Bob, I'm not sure the Mark 8 Golf is an improvement on the Mark 7.5. I don't think it is. I suspect we're in the land of Volkswagen. It's very, very hardly focused on the ID3 and the software issues it's got. There is some other software issues as well, not just related to the ID3, but within their sound system, within their touch screens. It even happened at Audi out there as well. I plugged in my Apple CarPlay and halfway home it just cuts off, like there's nothing connected, and this is physically plugged in with a cable and it stopped working. So there's these kind of efforts that are happening all the time to improve, and I think the focus very carefully is on ID3 rather than being on Volkswagen Golf where it normally is. And I think it's going to be a pretty tough sell for some of the Volkswagen dealers out there to try and sell that car. But they have announced a PHEV version of it. That would be interesting, because if they got an electric version of it as well, it would be more interesting. Still down to that 95 grams of CO2 though. Noel Griffin says, good afternoon. Well, about the recent documentaries, more of the documentaries on the way. They are definitely coming. The Top Gear one's actually quite interesting, where I go into the detail of what happened that has killed Top Gear, killed it to death, and BBC now, it could nearly cost BBC money to actually make Top Gear now. It's not, it went from like millions upon millions upon millions of UK and Irish people watching it, and then billions of people worldwide watching it, to now like a specialist niche program stuck off down at 8 o'clock on a Sunday evening. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird how things have happened. Hold on a second, I have to answer another one here. My email just lit up again. John Coleman has also donated. John Coleman is one of the most reliable donators. Thank you very much, John. You're very kind to keep on the support. But you can see where it's all going. You can see where this is all happening. Next thing is I'm looking for a Canon EOS or Canon EOS R camera with the adapter, because I have some Canon lenses there. I've kind of settled them as a full frame. But they're very hard to get now. They're kind of sold out, and they're not making as many of them as they were. So it's frustrating. But if you know where I can get a Canon EOS R that isn't Amazon and isn't extraordinarily like $2.5 grand buy, because that's not what they're worth anymore. But I would like to get them a full frame Canon camera that to go for, alright, and in 4K. So I want to film in 4K and upload in 4K as well, so you can all get your 4K groove on. Graham IRL, oh hi, all the way from Isaac Key in the Bahamas. Keep up the good work. Oh man, good place to be. Have you got a boat by any chance? Because that would be fun down there. A little yacht to sail about in the Bahamas. Irish Runner, well, you could argue that they're also forcing everyone else to go electric. Well, yeah, the forced upgrade is not actually allowed, and you can't retrospectively ban something under EU law. You can't encourage people to buy diesel and then ban diesel in the future. So there is actually a legal problem with banning the sale of petrol and diesel cars from 2030, but they'll get around that. But I don't actually believe the government has the balls or the wherewithal to actually carry out that 2030 plan. That's going to go back. I think that'll probably go back to 2050, particularly if the current government, if you remember the last time the Green Party got into power with the government, they nearly screwed the whole country over. And I mean just about, not just the Green Party, but Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Green Party, the whole lot, they nearly screwed us all to the wall. And now we have this new government in the middle of what will be a downturn in the market. Mark Turner Smith, yes Bob, modern classic insurance 20 to 25, then vintage full classic 25 years plus for car ages. Tony S says, well Bob, looks like carbon taxes are going to jump rapidly in the next 2 years if the coalition comes to an agreement. Yeah, I know, it's going up to 100 quid, like serious money. That could put like it'd be a fair whack going on to your, I'll have to find out now exactly. I don't want to quote numbers because this show has become quite big. It's sometimes when you mention something, all of a sudden newspapers are quoting you. So I don't really want to put it out right now, but it's going to be quite a jump, I believe. In I can't find it now. Not terrible. I like to bury the bloody story. No, I'll come back to it after. Anyway, but yeah, we will have a push up, quite a big push up in CO2 carbon taxes. And carbon tax affect us all, boys. So don't sit back there as an electric car owner smugly think to yourself, well, it's not going to affect me. It is, because carbon affects everything. Everything. Carbon taxes going up affects transport. Transport is how you get your stuff into Lidl. Even if you're a vegan, that's how it appears there, right? It doesn't get carried there by a carrier pigeon. Nobody walks in. It's a truck that brings it in. That truck will have to pay more money for his diesel, more taxes on the road, more CO2 emissions going out, which drives the price of the transport up. The farmers in the field have to pay more for their diesel, and they have to pay more for it. It just keeps this little incremental euro here, euro there, couple of quid on this, couple of quid on that, and all of a sudden you're broke again, right? Everything's going up. The Green Party is a great idea, but it needs years to instigate all the stuff that happens. If they actually stuck with what they were supposed to be doing, was the Green Party, encouraging, not green work, but encouraging environmental stuff. They'd focus more on forestry, and I know they're talking about grants for forestry into farming, but if you take away the farmer's ability to plant crops and to raise cattle and sheep, how do you feed people? You can't feed people with trees. Okay, so spare land being turned into forestry is brilliant. That's fine. As long as it's not sick to spruce, I'm okay with that. Paul Fun said at least that clickbaitish title did not relate to coal-generated electricity. Where? Tesla's a CO2 polluter. Tesla is a CO2 polluter. I'm sorry, it's not clickbaitish. It's just the truth. It's factual. I've only got 100 characters to get these things on the screen in front of you. And Tesla truncates all of the characters after that. So once you get beyond maybe 50 characters on the screen, they truncate, they cut it off at the end, and they usually don't put out the description so people don't click on it. So the first words out have to be Sunday service. The next words out were going to be what I was going to talk about, which is how Tesla has become a major CO2 polluter. And they are now, if they're selling their carbon credits to car companies, they have now instigated other car companies and their ability to offset their carbon emissions for the greater good. That's what's happening. So will it end at Alfa Romeo? Will it take some of Ferraris? Will it take some of Lamborghinis? Will it take, whose CO2 emissions are they going to take next? Thereby supporting the car industry as a normal car industry without being that halo group to come in and save Tesla or save Alfa Romeo. Don't forget the old like button, lads, says Eric Rochard. He's absolutely right. You'll be clicking that like button as best as you possibly can. Click it and then click it again till it goes off, and then click it another time just for the crack. So there's at least 300 of you watching right now. Joss Vermeulen says they are receiving money because polluters pay them. Using the money to support transition to renewable clean energy use is not just car but also for solar and batteries. You see how people justify it? Do you see how people justify the move to electricity? That is just justifying it in your own brain that Tesla is still this perfectly clean, carbon neutral, amazing little company that doesn't do any harm in the world, when in actual fact that is complete opposite of the real truth. If you look at SpaceX, what are they doing? How do you think that rocket gets off the ground up to the sky? Do you think it got up there through magic fairy dust? No. It is kerosene, effectively is what they're firing out as rocket fuel. It's no different. They're not running on batteries. So that's part of the same group, okay? They don't bore under the ground in a boring company using a battery power drill. No. They don't support their cars here in this country from the service call-outs that come out. You know what that's done in? A diesel-powered transit. So you can't keep justifying it in your mind and thinking that Tesla's shining a light on the industry. This is the way it all should go. They're just a business like any other business, but they have a man at the top of it who is very good. And I support entirely Tesla are the ruler of the long-distance electric car at the moment, and they have the best fleet. They've never made an ICE engine car, but they are supporting the things that they're rallying against. You cannot say this is the end of ICE. We are not going to be a CO2 polluter. We're going to be the best car company in the world, and then you sell off your carbon credits to someone who is a massive polluter. You can't have it both ways, and you can't justify it that they're the best company in the world. It doesn't work. Using that money isn't the same as being a polluter. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is the very same as being a polluter. I'm sorry, you're selling your carbon credits, which you have earned by not being a polluter, to a polluter so they can pollute more. You're just moving your pollution to some other company. Continue though. Andy McAfee says, after all, oven just died in the middle of cooking fish here, gutted. Trying to salvage by firing up another oven to take over. You've 2 ovens. It's just that's not allowed. I've only 1 oven and it died on multiple occasions. I have kept my same oven, which is now 12 or 13 years old, and we bake bread. We do a lot of stuff in the oven, so we do very high temperature stuff as well. So oven to the max bread, we make bread, we do the whole thing, and the oven has died on a number of occasions. Every time it's died, I've fixed it. There's a little place in Dublin, can't remember the name of it, I'd love to give him a shout out, but there's a little place in Dublin that sells parts for little tiny stuff you just can't get online, and he had everything. I brought up the part and we stood there in the middle of this dirty little shop in Dublin, surrounded by junk, and we found the little part we're looking for, and Matt's tuned him up and it went off, and I was happy, got it. Now I have to replace the fan. The fan in the back is slightly off. The bearing's starting to go in it. And I think probably the heating element. I might end up having to change it this year. I'd love an oven that you can spray water in. That sounds mental, but when you're baking bread, being able to spray water gives you that beautiful crust on the outside, not a dark crust on the outside. That's how to do it. You basically bring up the water content inside the oven, so it evaporates the water out of your bread and gives you a crusty outside. Anyway, now you see how quick this goes from cars to something else. Mark Turner Smith, the Lupo GTI and Audi A2, the oddball boxy one, where the aluminium panels insurance companies hated them with suitable high insurance costs due to complex repairs. Yeah, you remember the Audi A2? You couldn't actually service anything in it either. If you open the bonnet, which I don't even know that it opened, but you could get at the windscreen washer and you could do something else, and that was about it. I can't remember what other stuff you could do. Honest to God, if you're looking to collect a car today and you can find a good clean Audi A2, preferably with no damage, get it. I'm telling you, put in your garage, leave it there. In a couple of years time, that's going to be worth a fortune, particularly if you can find that diesel one. There was a diesel one that they put out that did like 90 miles to the gallon. An amazing machine entirely. Just checking, make sure I'm not missing out in here. Amazing machine that I've driven in the past. Absolutely brilliant joke. You find an Audi A2, petrol, diesel, but particularly diesel one, be brilliant. The Butcher IRL, hi Bob, thanks for the dash cam as a prize, given it fitted now. Good, glad to have. Unfortunately, there was no SD card then, which I just realised after it went off in the post. So hopefully you have a little mini SD sitting around at home. I don't actually have a spare one. It doesn't come with them for some reason. They give you the bloody dash cam, but they don't send you the thing to record on it. But yeah, it's a deadly little camera. I'll have another camera to give away soon. I've also got more lights, by the way. These little strip LED lights, I got these things as well. They're made in Germany, but they come with a little flimsy remote control, which is kind of cool, and little strips and stuff. So there's your remote control. You can do lights and dancing things. I was figuring on putting them up behind me here somewhere, so like a permanent plug-in light for all of this behind me. So that's going to happen as well once I get time. It's always very hard to do these things. Mumin says, so my buddy needed a new car, let him drive mine, and he loved it. He showed up next week with the same model, same option package, and even the same colour as mine, and parked next to me. Is that weird? No, you'd be surprised your influence over things. People's word of mouth has much more of an influence than any review, really. If you're sitting and you're looking out the window of your house, in your lovely little house estate, and you're happy in your little three bedroom semi-detached thing, looking out the window, and your neighbour buys a Hyundai i40, you go, oh, I bought a new car. Oh. Now that's you being influenced. You've been influenced by that. That's why a lot of press cards are given out for a number of reasons. Not just for the review, but just when you see the journalist drive around them, it often can influence people to drive stuff and want to go for it. Paul Fun, what's the car? What car? One of the cars behind me. There's an ID3 and there's a Skoda Kamiq. Is that a Kamiq? What the hell is that? Yeah, Kamiq. That's the Skoda Kamiq. And then an ID3 model, which I think is going to be pretty rare anyway. There's an ID3 model from Volkswagen as well behind me. Cute looking car actually. In model form. Must see your Alpha video, Bob, says William Hope. It's right there. It's on the channel. Published yesterday I think, actually only came out yesterday, yeah, something like that. The channel's grown. We're nearly 50,000. I'm like 1,000 subscribers away from 50,000, and as far as I'm aware, YouTube metrics change when you cross over the 50,000 mark. I don't know why, but it's some sort of weighted system that they put on to say that, you know, this channel is trustable and a whole lot. And I've never broken any rules on YouTube over the last few years, so it should be okay. I get there in the end, but 50,000, nearly there, so it'll be really good when I pass that threshold. Mini Egg says, hi Bob, given that they're the same new car price, would you choose a mass market Passat or a Superb loaded with options over a basic bare bones E-Class or A6 with almost no options? That's a bloody good question, because we in Ireland have well, not just Ireland, England as well, we have a habit of wanting to choose the brand over what we actually need. So we'll go out and we'll buy a bare bones E-Class rather than buying a high spec C-Class. We'll go out because it's a better, perceived to be a better, more mature car, right? So we buy Audi A4 rather than going off and buying a Kia, right? Because we see that the Audi, under basically the same price, we could have been loaded to the hilt in the Kia, but we bought a manual Audi A4 petrol Bogo standard. You know, for me, I'm going to be driving a car for 3 to 5 years, right? So if I buy a car right now and I'm buying on PCP, or I'm buying through a car loan, or I just have the cash to buy it, it's going to be 3 to 5 years before I get rid of that car. Do I want to be comfy and have all of the mod cons, or do I want to be Spartan just because of a badge? So for me, it's comfy. So I'll buy the car that I need, first of all. So I need a car with 5 doors because I have 2 kids, and you know, there's 4 of us. Whenever we go anywhere, so we want back doors in the car. I have a preference for estates, although hatchbacks are pretty good as well. I don't mind saloons, so that part doesn't really matter so much, but I would probably steer myself as much as I could towards an estate car. And then after that, it's the mod cons. I want active cruise control. I would prefer an automatic, and I would prefer a diesel if I was going for that kind of car, or electric, right? You're going to automatically get electric if automatic if it's electric. But after that, that's it. I'm not really worried about what brand the car is. It would be nice if it drove very well, you know, if it handled nicely and gave me a bit of excitement when I'm driving, but that's as far as it goes. So buying the bare bones of any car is just cheating yourself out of a bit of pleasure over the next few years, and it'll be worth less, much less, on the way out. As I often say in this channel, never buy a BMW with a manual gearbox. They're horrible. And so is most of the Audi range, and particularly Mercedes have a terrible manual gearbox. So if you're buying into the bottom end of an E-Class and you're buying a manual, you're mad. Marty O, afternoon all, love the Alpha Video 2 was out in the Model 3 on Monday. What an absolute blast. Some machine for tech. It is actually, yeah. I'm still not sure. I know Toyota did it years ago. They moved the Speedo into the middle, you know. It takes a bit of getting used to keep an eye on that speed thing over there. You know, the little smaller screen rather than the Model S had a big screen. The little smaller screen is nice. I do like the clean dashboard. I do like all the tech that they put into it. Great car, for sure. Great car. And I'm starting to see more and more and more of them as we go out driving now as well. I must arrange another test drive and see what software has been improved, or what hardware has been put on. So I'll give Tesla a buzz and get another one out of them for another little spin. William Money says, hi Bob, just wondering why BMW 530e are cheaper than 520d secondhand with equivalent mileage when priced. The new 530e is a good bit dearer. 2 engines effectively. Electric cars and hybrids, PHEV, diesel hybrids, petrol hybrids, any hybrids are always going to be a little bit more expensive because effectively you have to buy 2 engines. You're buying the standard petrol engine, and you're buying an electric motor in the back as well, and you're buying a set of batteries, and you're buying a petrol tank, and you know, so there's nearly double of everything inside the car. And that's why the 530e, when you're buying it, is basically the same price as a 520 diesel. But yes, the diesel one is more popular, so they tend to put a little bit more money on it. So the 520 diesel tends to be a little bit more expensive second-hand because it's more desirable. Less people want a PHEV, more people want an pure electric car, and more people want a pure diesel car. So it kind of works out that way. But it's market forces. As always, it's market forces that drive these things. Robert Doyle says, hi gang, I'll be in and out today, busy today, Sunday again. Enjoying the show so far, stay safe everyone. Thanks very much. Hugh O'Donnell, hi Bob, thanks Hugh. Paul O'Connor, I meant I should get the timing belt and water pump done by a main dealer. If that goes wrong, will it affect the engine? The car itself will be out of warranty. No, any mechanic will do a water pump. You don't have to do a water pump while you're doing the timing belt, but it's prudent to do it because while you have the belt off, part of the timing system is the water pump. You might as well change the pump as well while you're there. Generally speaking, when you're changing a timing belt, you just change everything. Just everything. Because you only have to do it the once, and sometimes you'll only get access to bits and pieces of the car while the time belt's off. But no, I wouldn't particularly want to go to a main dealer. I'm out of warranty. Anybody can do the timing belt and chain. It doesn't have to be up to the dealership to do it. But you can, I suppose, rest a little easier when you know a main dealer has done the job. That's kind of what that comes out to. Paul Fun, I would say that's pretty weird. It might be answered somebody else. Marty O says, would you prefer if Patreon switch over to memberships? I do think there should be another level in there though, circa 10 to 12 euro per month. I can certainly look at that, Marty. Not particularly. If you're supporting them, you'll get the same benefits either side. The only thing patrons won't be able to access is the posts that are directly put up on YouTube. So that the community tab is specific to YouTube. So only YouTube member supporters will be able to access that thing. Patreon supporters are on Patreon, so they get their own posts. And if you think about it, people on YouTube who support through memberships won't be able to see the Patreon only posts either. So you both have, there's a drawback to both sides. As for cuts, I make more from Patreon than I would make from YouTube. In a cut, I think YouTube take maybe 60-70%. I think, I don't know, I'd have to check that one out. But the audience is much bigger on YouTube. So if you're a patron now, stay there if you want to. If you want to move your stuff over to YouTube, that's fine as well. If you want to get it over there, you probably get more action on YouTube, because I am active all of the time on YouTube, but rarely on Patreon. I specifically, as Patreon is a totally different business, I have to go over there specifically and post specifically in Patreon. So it's quite difficult. It's something else you have to remember to do, and something you have to generate, another post you have to write. You're linking in YouTube videos and stuff, so it's kind of difficult in that respect. But I don't mind where the support comes from. The more support, the more equipment I can get, and the better these videos become. My intention is, if it's possible this year, to actually hire a camera person. Can you imagine the freedom you would get just having a camera person with you whenever you're filming? That's overseas, here as well in Ireland. The ability to just be able to walk around and move about. If you watch Matt Watson's video where he's walking towards the car, it's because there's a camera person there. He can walk around, he can get on with the stream. And I know some of it's like being on a factory, but the documentary stuff would benefit to having someone else there with me as well on the camera, someone to check the footage, someone to check the audio. It just means the content can go up another level, but that obviously requires paying somebody. I don't want a free cameraman. You pay somebody to do that sort of stuff. So hopefully we'll be in a position to turn it into a paid position for someone on a part-time basis, maybe at first, and we see how it goes from there. I'd also like to start writing as well on thenextgear.com, and writing reviews, and really make a whole publication out of it. So it's getting something from writing and video and a whole lot, but that requires a lot of money. It really does. Probably I'd keep an eye now on Paul Fun. I have a funny feeling Paul Fun's going to go off the rocker there really quickly. Just a thought. Brian O'Donnell says he's safe and well. We are all safe and well so far. Ocean Froggy Bob, any info and comment on the video of his latest announcement to delay ID3 and alleged software problems? There is conflicting information about Volkswagen and what they're doing with their software problems. I have seen everything from it's been written by a 5-year-old to we have solved all of the problems, and everything in between those two lines. So with any luck, we will have ID3s on the ground here this year for test, at least for test, and at least for customers or pre-orders to come and drive. That's the best information I have. Software wise, I don't know. I've seen guys talk about software issues, but I still haven't seen the software issue. I still haven't seen exactly the evidence of what is the software issue, what is the biggest problem, what are they figuring out, how are they going to get there. It's a tough one. By this time next year, it won't be an issue. By December 2021, Tesla sales will have fallen because Volkswagen and European car companies will have caught up. Yeah, another thing I want to draw about Tesla as well is that they have been very good at putting up their plans and data and blueprints and all that stuff online. And so what's a car company to do? You know, they're just going to download those and adapt them, right? Because what normally happens at a car company is, if Volkswagen like the look of a Mazda, they go to a Mazda dealership, they buy the Mazda, they take it back into the factory, they disassemble the entire thing to figure out what makes it work, and then they make a copy of it. Tesla save them doing that, just get them the plans. So I'd say within the next 12 to 15 months, you'll find that Tesla sales of Tesla, not in America, I don't think, but the sales in Europe and stuff will start to fall as more car companies cotton on to what's happening, what they can do and how they can sell stuff. And once they get through that point, we'll have a good competitive market. That's very exciting, to have that competitiveness in the market. It's what we want. It's really what I want, is that you guys have tons of choice for cars, and in 5 or 6 years time I'll have tons of choice of electric car to buy as a second-hand car. That's what you really want, you know. A new member, Brian O'Donnell, has become a qualified mechanic. I look at that, putting in another level in there, another one in betweeny level. I don't know how many levels YouTube allows you to put into these things, but sure, we'll figure it out as we go along. Hang on, I scroll forward there stupidly again. Not my fault. I wish they'd fix these things. Mark Turner Smith. Agree, Bob. I have full history together for my 2001 Polo GTI. Patchy history for the 2018, early 2020. As a car spent periods and sadly passed Club GTI. Owner fell ill, died of cancer 6 months ago. It's been a long battle. That's a long, tough old battle of cancer stuff. I lost my mother and my brother and my father to it. And my grandfather to it. So it's a tough old go. No matter what you see the old celebrities do on TV, I've conquered cancer and all that stuff, it's still a tough old time. But yes, a car history in Ireland wasn't worth a pittance to you. These days, you get a good car history on a car, boom, car's worth, even a basic car, even a standard yoke, a couple of years old, is easily worth 500 to €1,000 more because it has a spot on history to go with it. Tony S says, Bob, the new Land Rover Defender is interesting with several features for cross-country driving. The interior is robust and floors can be easily cleaned, etc. Full electric is the future. Correct, Tony S. I will have the new Land Rover Defender to test in a few weeks' time. Booked it in the other day. So it will be here on the channel as soon as I can get it. They just don't have one. That's being dead honest with you. I would have had it by now, but they just don't have one. So that's why we're a little bit behind on the channel. It's not the channel's fault. It's more the fact of the car companies just not having a bleeding car. But I will have a test in the near future. Hopefully we will see something good come out of Land Rover. If they divert their money well and they really capitalise on where they are, they could easily bring out a Land Rover Defender electric pretty fast. It really wouldn't take that long. Mark Turner Smith is my ownership now, but restoration to his memory. Gordon McMillan says Tesla spent that money on making electric cars, nothing else to say except why not criticise Alfa for still burning. I do criticise Alfa all the time. Alfa make shit cars as well as these good ones, and Alfa has made absolutely nothing to do with electric cars, and I said that in the video. They've done nothing. They just make CO2 burning cars. They take their engines from Ferrari, they stick them in a performance car, and away they go. Fiat are in exactly the same position. A lot of the car companies are in exactly the same position, but the problem is that Tesla has taken the money and spent it on who knows what. They've put it into their bank because they haven't made profit in years. They shouldn't have taken that money. They should have gotten a loan of money as they would normally do. This idea to stand out there and have zero emissions. We're going to be the cleanest company in the world and we're not going to make any emissions. And here we are now beating the little horse to death. You see how quick people try and defend it in their minds. Always happens. What did I miss there? I'm just watching my emails now because lads are sending me money. I can't miss out money things, because once you buy questions, lads. You really want me to pay attention to your question first, you spend some money on a super chat, so you send it by PayPal. Derek Norris, afternoon is very warm out today, lads. It's kind of stuffy, isn't it? Luke McNamara, what do you do to Harris? Nothing. I didn't do anything. I think wasn't even following him. I wasn't following the guy in the first place. I don't remember anything ever happening. Someone linked me something he tweeted one night, and I noticed that I was blocked by Chris Harris. And I thought, what did I do? And I think he retweeted a thing I said to him one time, but I don't remember what it was. And I don't know. I wasn't trying to follow him, which is why I never really complained about it. I never really tweeted at him or anyone who knows him to say, why have you blocked me? Maybe he blocks thousands of people. God only knows. I'd say, I wouldn't like to be in the position, to be honest with you. It'd be great to have the money and all, but geez, you wouldn't be able to put your head outside the door for 2 seconds. You couldn't say anything on Twitter without being shouted at. God, I've nearly, 4,500 followers or something on Twitter, 5,000 followers, and everything I say is taken so seriously. Bloody hell. Everything you open your mouth, like, morning. What I do, Harris Graham says, what are your thoughts on Tesla commercial vehicle competitions such as Rivian or Nikola Motors promising 400 miles charge? Promises are brilliant, and car companies have done this for years. If you remember, just before Lotus went out of business, they revealed like 8 or 9 new models. Same kind of thing has happened over all the years. MG did it as well, and Rover did it. They kind of just make an announcement to get some investment going into it, so people throw money at them, and then they hope that they can battle through over the next few months. Until I see the cars at Nikola Motor, and I've seen Rivian stuff. Rivian is very promising, in fairness, because they've got some backing going on there, good money coming in. Nikola Motors, they might not have anything. GM has been announcing these 1,000-kilometer range batteries. These extraordinary mad jokes that are coming in off the top of their heads, you know. And it's wild to see them kind of just throw things out going, yeah, well, this is our stuff. And you go, well, make a car. Let's see, can it do what you're saying it's going to be able to do, right? Alan Montgomery, thank you very much. A supporter on Patreon, on PayPal. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Until I see, Graham, the car in front of me and I drive it, or until I see someone I trust drive it, and there's very few, I could probably name on one hand how many journalists I actually trust to review a car, and I'll watch it and I go, yeah, he's telling the truth. It's in a very small amount. Reg Nichols says, hi Bob, thanks very much. Paul O'Connor says, I cancelled Patreon, joined YouTube as qualified mechanic, can't hold a hammer. But we'll see, you'll gain knowledge, Paul. You'll gain the knowledge. I will give you the knowledge in my little community post. So my intention with the community post is behind the scenes. If you're a member on YouTube, is that I will put up behind the scenes pictures and photographs and videos and polls and questions and stuff that only you guys will see, and that's how YouTube organizes. Now I'll do the same thing for Patreon, so if you're on Patreon I will put them there too, but it's not the same interaction. Patreon has an app on my phone, but realistically it's only text back and forward. But on YouTube I can put up little videos and snippets and clips and stories and things that I can do. It's different here on YouTube, so I'm hoping that between the two that I'll make enough money to be able to hire a bleeding cameraman. That's really what I'm after, and a new camera. New camera's first though. The new camera's first. Reg Nichols says, hi Bob, really enjoy your Sunday afternoon talk on cars. It's always about, it could be anything. God knows what it's going to be about. It just keep your mind open and your head in one spot, because it's a great place for people to get together and just have a chat. Someone said to me the other day, it's the most interactive chat show per minute in Ireland. This one, something per minute, something beats per minute, or something like that, interactions per minute or some stuff like that. Mad to think that this little show in this little corner of this little western chunk of Europe has become so popular, which is really good. We're outdoing most TV shows at this stage. Alan Montgomery says, hi Bob, have you heard any behind the scenes news on the VW ID3? It's all very quiet. No, other than the reviews I've seen that have been published in Auto Express and stuff of the car itself. But do you know, I read it. I read the reviews, not just Auto Express, the other ones as well, and they're all very, how would I say, bland, like they blend into one another in a weird sort of strange way. It's like there's no opinion nearly. They're written nearly by democracy or something. I can't quite work it out. There's no like standout feature. And Matt Lyons is becoming an apprentice mechanic. Thank you very much, Matt Lyons. Hopefully we'll graduate you into a qualified mechanic over time. Johnny Morris, Tesla is the dirtiest EV in Europe along with Hyundai. Any car that imported from Taiwan or California has a high carbon footprint. These ships that transport the cars in the USA use 250 tons of bunker diesel. I haven't heard it. You're in the business, because I haven't heard it being called out unless you're in the business. Anyway, of bunker diesel a day. From California to Holland is a 40-day round trip, so it's 250 tons of bunker fuel by 40 days. You could drive diesel Golf for 10 years. Now, come at us. Now, Johnny Morris has made the ultimate point there, and a point I totally agree with. I'm very against large shipping containers and as you call it there, bunker diesel, which is basically it's the cheapest, most unrefined, crappy diesel you can possibly buy. It's like it wouldn't run a car. It'd be too dirty to put into anything even remotely modern car, but they can run it in those big diesel tankers on the trot out there. And I suppose, you know what, when you start to add it up, Johnny Morris might have a very valid point. Most of the cars we're buying here are indeed made in California and shipped over here on ships to Holland, where they sit and they're charged up and then they're shipped again on ships over to Ireland. So, you know, there's a valid point behind that one, Johnny. Well done. Top of the class, my man. Paul Fun says, I predict my $40,000 single motor Cybertruck will be worth more than it is after a few years of using it. I guarantee that'll be worth more money, because even an idiot buys a car once in a while. The Cybertruck looks as thick as two planks. It's an ugly looking thing. Take your glasses off for a second, just have a look at that yoke. It's a ridiculous, I don't know where the designer just drew something on the back of a page or something. I could have drawn that. Like, seriously, anyone could. If you ask a child to draw a car, that's essentially what they draw. Pat Mulligan. Hi Bob, I have a 2007 Opel Zafira that I want to sell due to lack of cash from virus layoff. Never sold a car before. Any advice? That's in 226, so I'm sorry I'm so late behind you, Pat. When you're selling a car, first of all, understand the pricing, right? What you think it's worth and what it's actually worth is usually two different things. That's number one. Number two, try and get an idea of the value people are putting on things. So if you go to Car Zone, which I find Car Zone is very heavy dealer end, right? A lot of dealers put their stuff there. They'll put it up for $6,000 and you go, wow, it's worth $6,000. Didn't think it was that, right? But that's bull. They're hoping to get 3 for that or something, right? So it's going to be this big difference in price. You look on Done Deal, look at Car Zone, look at Cars Ireland, look at all of the places, try and find your car, get all of the prices, find the average, and that's kind of what your car is going to be worth, less any deals after that. Don't spend any money on it, you're selling it, right? If you want to give it a service, grand. If you want to put it through an NCT, great. NCT is worth its weight in gold when you're going to sell. Try and get all your details together for selling the car, so make sure you've got all of your tax books or log books or anything else that's attached to the car, your insurance details, the whole lot. So if a purchaser comes around to your house or you're going to meet the person somewhere, then have all the books with you. Second tip, never ever 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 meet someone out somewhere in a remote weird location or in a petrol station in the evening time to show them the car. Never ever ever. If they want to meet somewhere and you want to talk to them, meet them outside of a business that you know that can see you outside. Meet them at a Garda station is always a good one to do. Your local Garda station, once it's manned of course. Meet them right outside it. Meet them right at the front door of the thing. Or bring them around to your house. You want to do it that way as well, where you know you can be safe, where you know you're not going to get jacked here and the car's going to disappear over the hill, right? Your 2007 would be a big target for that, but you never know. You never know what people are looking for. But if you're selling the car, just get as much as you possibly can for it. Get the cash in your hand. If you want the cash to spend on your mortgages or your bills or something, great. If you're going to buy another car, have the other car ready to go. Don't leave the cash sitting around the house for a couple of days. You'll spend it. Right, that's what happens. Everybody, it's a natural instinct to kind of go, oh, you know, I could buy a nice fancy bottle of wine tonight. Suddenly your 3 or 4 grand turns into $1,000 over a couple of weeks. But there's no mystery to selling cars. Just be dead straight, be dead honest. If they ask you a direct question, is this car broken or some way, you go, no, it's not broken. Not your job to tell them. Okay, that's buyer beware when it comes to second cars. A lot of people would advise you use a burner phone for it as well. So when you're using your phone, you put in your phone number, don't give them your real phone number. So if something goes wrong with the car, that they don't start badgering you, look for their money back. There's no guarantee with used cars on a private sale. There is on a normal sale. That light that I bought is actually quite hot. James Marnane, thank you very much for becoming an apprentice mechanic. You're very good. This join button seems to be working very well. 7 new members today. I like it. Hopefully it'll all work out for us in the end, but I really do think that kind of behind the scenes pictures is what you're after as well, and it means I have another place to put things out, which is good. Annie McPhee says, saw it on, I think it was Rich Rebuild's channel, someone installing exhaust on their Tesla Model 3. Sounded very loud. Random thing to do, but there's obviously a market for it. There is. To make a car make noise. Noise. You see, I equate the sound of a good engine to very similar thrill that you would have got if you heard a lion growl. You know, you're out in the savannah, you're trying to survive, little Stone Age man, tick, 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 and you hear a grumble behind you. Can I outrun that? I wonder how fast. Makes your heart pound. Oh, there's something guttural, something mammalian inside us, that when you hear the growl and the bark and the snort from a good like V6, V8 engine, that you go, oh, that's very exciting. I like that. And then you get into an electric car and you're hoovering along the road at 100 kilometers an hour, and you got there in like 5 seconds, and it's about as exciting as, you know, I go fast now, and it's gone, and there's no noise, and it's all over. I think you get sick of it after a while, but you never get sick of the noise of things. And Brandon Donald says, what's the difference between Patreon and the YouTube club membership? Nothing. I think I explained it already. This is a question from a while ago, so I think I explained it already, but very little. The prices are basically the same, although I might add another level of price to the YouTube one. The YouTube one is just new, they just enabled it, but it means some people don't want to have another account over on Patreon to get their stuff over there, so they already have an account on YouTube. They might want to do it here, so it just gives you the choice of doing either one of them. But communication through the YouTube one should be a little bit better than they are over on Patreon, because it's all in the same app. It's right here. It's on every single device I have has YouTube on it somewhere. So it's pretty easy. It's actually really hard to do a community post on YouTube. It really is. For me to go in and actually post something, I have to go into the YouTube app, to my channel, to community, and then I can add a post. Such a long way around. I can't even do it from the studio or anything like that. 33 and a third, Maxwell battery. People are concerned with regarding degradation as battery eases their concerns. I'd still be concerned with degradation, to be honest with you, because like I have a mobile phone, I have 2 or 3 of them, and it doesn't hold all the same charge when I bought them first. I had to replace them. So, but that only cost like 70 quid. Marty O has become a qualified mechanic. Whoa, there's a man who knows what he's doing. Mamin says, after seeing your Stelvio review and how car-like this, along with seeing SUVs like the Mazda CX-5, which is very car-like, do you see that maybe pointing towards a resurgence for estates? God, I hope so. Estates are so much more practical than 5-door hatchback SUVs. Essentially, what most of these things that are called SUVs now started out as a 5-door hatchback, and they just stuck some extra bits underneath it and made it a bit taller, and that's essentially what they've done. Same as CX-5. Well, the CX-5 is pretty nice. I think what's going to happen, I think what we need to do is, the clever money now is heading for estates and is heading for saloon or hatchback, because that's where the bargains are. That's where the offers are. Car companies are loading estates with stuff and giving them away at half the price of these, top end SUVs. I prefer the look of the estate as well. I prefer to drive a Skoda Superb estate over a Skoda Superb, and certainly a Skoda Superb estate over whatever the big, whatever that large SUV that Skoda has. I prefer the Skoda Superb estate every time. Martin Smith says, had a thought the other day and worked it out with the other day. Outside of driving in summer for mountain bike XC race, my biggest carbon footprint is the fact tires used, broken carbon fiber bits, etc. Yeah, I know. We all have a carbon footprint. No matter how well you live, these lights that are in here are causing CO2. We generate it. We have a carbon footprint. We do it all the time. If we can minimize our impact on the planet in some way, we've made a difference. Even if it's in the small, even if you recycle more things, even if you just didn't buy the latest iPhone, you bought a secondhand one, that has a carbon footprint, because you're reusing something, you're continually using something, so nothing new has been made to replace it. The problem is we've now created an environment where we change our cars every 5 years. What we used to do was, you bought a car and held on to it for 30 years. We handed it down to our kids, drove the bloody car. That's the way to keep things minimal. We're not recycling stuff. We're not dumping things in the ocean, Bob has, VW had technical problems with its cars in recent years, or has it been a new thing with them? No, pretty much every car company on earth has had a problem with technical. As we get more software integration, the thing is, we're moving a lot of things that were mechanical, a thing where you clicked a switch and a relay opened and something happened. Like an indicator. The old way an indicator used to work, you had a switch, the indicator or switch would go down to a wire, the wire would go to a relay, and a relay is basically another switch. The sound that an indicator makes is actually a relay opening and closing. Old ones is that tick tock is the relay opening and closing and letting electricity through and not electricity through. So that's what made the flasher work on the outside. That was a very mechanical thing once upon a time. Now that's totally electronic. The sound of an indicator is actually an electronic sound that the cars put in. On some cars. The same applies for throttle response. You push the accelerator pedal. It used to be a mechanical switch that you were pushing down onto the floor. That switch would allow the throttle body to open, which would allow more fuel to go in, which would burn faster. So that's how it worked. Now it's fly-by-wire. Now you're pressing a button inside that's opening an electronic thing and making it happen in there. So there's so many changes, so many electronic things, and that's not what a car company specializes in. A car company makes engines and wheels and suspension and physical yokes, so they hire in software designers, and necessarily the software designers don't necessarily talk to the engineers, and the engineers don't talk back, and so there's this problem when the car is made and suddenly realize it just isn't working. Trevor says they already said how they will get the petrol and diesel cars off the road. They are to change the NCT emissions test so none of the cars will pass. See, they can't really do that. They can and they can't. you can fiddle with stuff, but you can't force people to do something that they don't want to do. You can't, because what happens is revolution. That's essentially what goes on. You end up in a situation like you have in the UK and in America and stuff, where people are trying to murder one another because things have changed and something has occurred and people get on the streets. And I think that's what we need here in Ireland. Is what we actually, the real target should be 50% of the car market becomes electric. If you take 1 million grams of CO2 and you take half the cars away, you got 500,000 grams of CO2. It's really straightforward, isn't it? Like, that's really basic maths. But essentially, it's just that easy. You just remove half the cars that are on the road, that are crap cars, that are commuter cars, that are one sitting on the N7 in the morning with everybody and one person in them sipping. You just remove all those cars. And you either replace them with electric cars or you improve the national structure of public transport. In doing so, you've removed the cars as well, and then that's it. You clean up everything else, and everything else is okay. Maeve Higgins, Maeve Higgins, are you Maeve Higgins, the comedian? I went to see Maeve Higgins one night as a comedian. She was funny. Anyway, hi Bob. Do you have any plans to review the Bmw X5 45e? I'm sending this from my dad, who's a big fan and is saving hard to buy this car, but would like your thoughts on it. When it comes to Ireland, I certainly will. BMW, of course, was kind of crushed by imports, and the staff maybe are reduced a little bit, but there's some communication issues going on, and we've had coronavirus in the middle of it, and between all of that, the X5 45e has fallen in between the cracks. But once it comes on the market, I certainly will. I don't see it yet available for test, but we'll see when it gets here. Once it gets there, can't be that bad. As I always say with BMW X5, because it's an extraordinarily big car, please go and price the set of tyres for the BMW X5 and then report back, because you'll have to replace those tyres probably once every maybe 1.5 years to 2 years, and if it's like 500 quid a corner, you know, it'd be a very expensive thing. Although who texted me the other day? Keith Duffy, you know Keith Duffy from Boyzone, he runs a tyre company now, and he asked the other day if I wanted to do something with tyres, and I go, no, not really. I don't know about tyres. I don't do video. Tyres are boring. Like, I know they're very essential, vital thing on your car, but they're fiercely boring to try and make interesting. Ocean Froggy, good show again, gotta go have lunch, cheers, thanks, bye. Mark Turner Smith, only recently things come in place to recycle bicycle tyres, rubber and high-end race components, almost impossible to recycle, so go to landfill. Yeah, no, almost everything does actually for us. PS, just running out the door, but the Greens possibly in the next government. Why do you feel 2030 might get extended? Because the main problem with the 2030 target right now is they don't have supported the car industry. It's great to throw it out there and go, look, 2030 we're just not going to sell any more petrol diesel cars. But right now the problem is that's 9 years away, right? Really, 9.5 years, even less. And trying to get everybody on board to buy the cars, to replace the cars, to have no more petrol diesel cars selling. It's this. What do you do with all of the unemployment, with the factories shutting down all across the world that make diesel components? How do you support third world countries who have no interest whatsoever in electric, don't have electric going to their bleeding house, let alone going to a car, right? So where do you put them people? There's so many things we think about in the first world country, like the rest of the world doesn't exist. We can lead the way, we can do it all, but we've never in Ireland, the one thing we continue to fail at is actually making a deadline for any sort of change. So I just highly doubt that by 2030, I mean, Shane Ross, the guy who decided to bring in his 2030 target, isn't even a TD anymore. He's just in the caretaker government that nobody wants now. So, you know, there's a lot going on. Andrew Palmer, how do you think Ireland will cope at the border when the British government dump us out of the EU? You know, I don't know. It is a big question. It is a big question. We have an agreement. We've had years and years and years and years of just driving over the border and ticking along across the whole north there into Monaghan, the whole lot. It's an incredibly simple thing. I've a feeling the reunification of Ireland is on the cards consistently. It seems to be talked about, memes coming out and some releases and stuff calling for how good it would be. I don't know whether it's going to work out for us or not, or whether we'll be able to do it. we'll have to figure something out, because we can't just put a line up across the country and just divide us all up again. It wouldn't make any sense. Carl Cortezi. Hi Bob, your thoughts on the upcoming Lexus IS? I'm looking forward to that. Lexus are doing really good things, not necessarily for European cars, but they are really doing good things, and they've done some really good cars over the last few years. The UX is a nice car. They've done some really interesting stuff, genuinely different from everybody else. You can harp on about the hybrids or whatever you want to talk about them, however that works out for you in your head. It's just the cars themselves are interesting. Their tech is interesting. They're doing interesting stuff. So I'm kind of excited by the Lexus IS. Their cars are genuinely different to look at, and that's kind of exciting for me, because everything else looks like a Eurobox when it stands beside the Lexus. Johnny Morris says, if we are worried about carbon footprint, we need a small battery cars like 24 kilowatt, not 100 kilowatt. 100 kilowatt cars are filthy, but they're also, you know what, there comes a point where all these kilowatts end up being so heavy that the car doesn't go anywhere. Like, you can go as fast as you want, you can go as far as you like, you just keep adding batteries, but that's not true, because eventually the batteries start to weigh so much that you can't even drive the bleeding car anymore. So yeah, you're right. I would like to see a return back to, if you took the modern lithium ion decent batteries we have right now and made a small 24 kilowatt one and put it back into generation 1 Nissan Leaf, you'd go further than you did the first time Nissan Leaf came out, because the battery tech is better, software is better. So we should actually be going smaller, not bigger, for the commuter car. Plus, who wants to sit on a bloody motorway in any car other than an electric car? Like, you sit there, most of the time you're just sitting there parked. Do you ever follow that motorbike guy on YouTube? I can't think of his name now. Royal Jordanian. I don't even follow him. I used to watch his daily commute thing. If you ever look at the traffic in London, like, I've been in it, but I've never seen a motorbike carve through it. The tailbacks are insane. Like, God almighty, why do you even have a car in that city? Madness. Johnny Dub says, at this stage of taxes upon taxes, I feel like just getting an electric bicycle for commuting to work and a nice summer car for the odd 3 months. Pity you can't get monthly insurance here. Yeah, you see insurance companies. Oh, don't give me started on insurance companies. Insurance companies, yeah, just a pain in the hole. But yeah, you're right. An electrically assisted bike. I've had them here, the Orbea bikes and all those kind of bikes. I've had them here. Great yokes. Absolutely brilliant. Totally enjoyed pedal about on them, and they can go much further than you think, particularly when they have the regenerative, when you're not pedaling, it regenerates a bit of electricity. Absolutely brilliant. Annie McPhee says, I'm now seating with fish and chips on the go. See, there you are, now you're talking. King One Eye said, this is my favourite baking channel as well. See, you get I teach you how to do everything. Bake, bread, fix cars, do stuff. It's crazy. Paul O'Connor says, battery technology and recycling will evolve. Funny, Paul, you remember, and your name actually is highlighted with a little S behind it that said that you're on the membership thing. Isn't that cool? That's really cool. Your name stands out. Like, anybody gets a little S behind it, which is really cool. That's very good. Battery technology and recycling will evolve. It will get cheaper and more environmental. ICE has evolved to the point of stagnation. A lot should happen in the next few years. It will, I think, to some degree, but I think there is a position for petrol and diesel cars. If you look at the BMW ID, what was the first one? The small one. BMW, small, doors open backwards. It'll come to me in a minute. You know the one I'm talking about, the electric car that they had. They used to have a range extender built into it, which was brilliant. I had one here on test. Drove from Indo offices on Foley Street in Dublin on a full charge all the way home, and the little battery or little engine just sparked up on just there in the middle of Portlaoise. And I could hear it come in the background. It was a little motorbike engine put sideways into the boot. Clever stuff. So I think there's a position for stuff like that to happen, that combustion engines have another life in another way that can support battery and make battery even better than it was before. Instead of making the cars consistently heavier and heavier and putting more and more batteries in, that a little petrol engine can do its job, and in some way in the tech part of that, through the filtration system, we might be able to figure it out. What are we at now? Okay, well, I'm not doing too bad now. I'm only like an hour behind you. Byron says 24 kilowatt would be terribly small car. It would hardly make up a hill. It's not the battery that helps it up the hill. It's the kind of like torque, like the old version of a torque converter that would get you to go up a hill. It's to do with torque. Smaller batteries, of course, would drain quicker if you have to climb hills constantly, but then you can always come back down the hill as well. What was the launch I was on outside of Monaco, where he drove an electric car up to the very, very top of this hill, and it like had half a tank left when it got to the top, and then we came all the way back down on regenerative yoke, and it filled the tank back up for, I can't remember what that was, something weird years ago. 33 Third says, Ori, Tesla pollution, these carbon credits are used to help the company to establish itself. No company is a non-pollutant, it's about reducing. Yeah, but what did they reduce? They bought a highly CO2 emitting company. They gave them a chance to emit more CO2 by selling their carbon credits to them. See, anyway, any more videos planned with Paul McGann, says Danny Heinen. He texted me this morning. I got a message from him this morning there saying he's back up and running. Hang on now. I know. Paul McGann, here we go. Back doing videos this week. Hope all is well. Lockdown. Would you like to do a video with me and Jamie? Bring a car, something nice. So we'll do something. Just it's finding time. Honest to God, right now, YouTube and me on my videos is, I'm at nearly 100% effort on it all the time now. So it's very hard to find a slot that would include somebody different or making a different video for somebody else. So like I made a video the other day for the Irish Car of the Year videos, but they brought a crew. All I had to do was turn up and talk and leave. I don't have to edit it, don't do anything with it. Just talk and it's gone. So so it's quite hard. But yeah, I would like to do another video, of course I would. No problem at all. It's just finding the time to do it. Adrian Nelson says, good afternoon. Thanks, Adrian. Nationalist Scallywag says, I had an A2, there was 2 fixings to lift the bonnet off. That's right. I seem to remember you couldn't get anything at it. You couldn't actually open the bonnet, just like open and look underneath. There was nothing to see. It wouldn't open like that. Any more Volkswagen Golf videos planned? Yes, I have a new Golf coming to me in a couple of weeks time, and I will make a video of it as soon as I get it. I think I'm getting a mild hybrid one of it. That is on the way. Word of mouth influencer. Bought my first Skoda Superb 5 years ago after watching a review from Bob Flavin. So really, it's his fault I'm here. Yeah, well, you see, you have to call it like it is. Like, you can't. If you were to look at all the cars that are coming in the next 10 years, you'd never buy anything now, because God knows what's around the corner. At the rate of change, at the rate that we're going through things, how we're changing over stuff. Like, I know a good few people who bought first generation electric cars from whoever, Renault, Nissan, all the ones that started off the whole thing. And they're gone back to diesel, or they're gone back to petrol, because it was just too much hassle for them. So you're going to have that natural fall off of people who try it and don't like it and go back the way they were. Now, if the cars aren't there when they come back, then they're probably not going to buy something else. That'll be it. Anyway, faces join costs the same in Great British Pound as Euro for the first 2 tiers, then it differs. I wonder if YouTube savaged the currency conversion on top of their cut much. Would be a better sticking with sporadic PayPal. You see, well, there's 2 sides to that thinking. One is the PayPal is incredibly useful, right? Really is, to get that boost. Some people are really regular on the PayPal thing, they remember it. But the thing about the YouTube and Patreon is that I know what's coming. Well, within reason. Some people don't pay out, obviously, but I know what's coming. So you can plan, you can make an idea, you know how much money is going to appear next month to try and buy lights and cameras and things. Whereas with PayPal, I have no idea. And it's only during the Sunday service people use the PayPal thing. So I have no idea whether it could be any amount. 0. Right? But the same applies to YouTube income. So YouTube advertising could actually end up being exactly the same. It could go to 0 tomorrow. You've no idea how the advertising system works. So the dependable ones is Patreon. And I've never used memberships like on YouTube, so I don't know how that's going to be useful to me. But if it turns out to be useful, it's great. All I really want to do is have a dependable amount, so you can say, yeah, definitely next month I can definitely pay the mortgage, and I might be able to set aside a bit to buy a new camera and maybe order a light. And it's those little things you kind of have to figure out. Byron, I'm rooting through now, see who's who. Owen Sweeney, right now. Our regular delivery has arrived. Thank you very much, wife. You're very kind. The wife has landed. What is it? Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Oh, it's tea. Woohoo! We got tea this time. Now 2 cups and a glass. And a little holder. And I have a knife as well. Oh, I better show that. I have a little Leatherman tool that I keep here regularly has to be done. Who is that now? Mark Turner Smith has become an apprentice mechanic. Thank you very much, Mark Turner Smith. Owen Sweeney. Bob, does the price of the same new car differ around the country between official dealerships? Yes, but not by much. You're not going to get a big difference because that price is more set by the manufacturer. But the discount, so when this is old school stuff now. So if supposing a brand new car was 20 grand, right? That's its sticker price. That's the price when you walk into the dealership, you see 20 grand written in the front of the thing. The dealer might have €1,500 or €500 or €300 of a profit margin to play with that. So it's costing the dealer, let's say it's €500. So it cost the dealer €19,500 to have that car sitting there. He is going to make €500 out of the sale of that car. Now, two things can happen here. He can give you the €500 off, so you get the car for 19,500, or he can get it through the trade-in, or he can give you some freebies like mats or a full tank of fuel or whatever it is to try and get you to buy it at 20 grand. That little bit is the only bit that they've got to work on. That can vary between 5 grand or €500. Depends on which one it is. That's why a trade-in, you deal with the cost of change. So if you're trading in your car and you're getting 15,000 for it, the difference, the cost of change is 5 grand. That's it. I don't care how much you give me for my car. The cost of change is 5 grand. So if a dealership will give you 6 grand is the cost of change, then he's giving you less on your trade-in or giving you a discount off your car. If the cost of change is 4 grand, then it doesn't matter how that €1,000 has been made up. It's irrelevant. All I want to know is the car is going to cost me 4 grand. That's it. Only ever talk about the cost of change. Don't worry about the actual retail price of the car. Worry about the cost of change between the two. My God, my talk of cost of change got 2 brand new members. The Butcher IRL is now an apprentice mechanic. Thank you very much. And Andy McAfee has now become, your name is in blue as well, I can't read blue on that screen, has become a qualified mechanic. Thank you very much for all the support. It's brilliant. 11 new members today. This is deadly. But yeah, so cost of change is the only thing you're interested in. If you're going to spend 5 grand to change into this new car, and he says, listen, I'll give you 16 for your car, and you go, oh, what's the cost of change? That's all I'm about. That's it. And they go, oh, well, 3 grand. No, that's grand. Okay, 3 grand. That's it. Only talk about the cost of change in dealership. Sorry if you work in dealership. I know I'm messing you up now when I say this, but you're going to have to become a bit cleverer. Eric Washer says, all Mercs are relatively high spec now, especially E-Class, and most have what you need, having come from a high spec Superb to what would be considered a basic-ish E-Class. It's true, yeah, more or less. Most of those luxury brands have moved away from doing sort of a budget entry cars in that same league, so they don't have necessarily a budget E-Class anymore. They talk about putting you into a C-Class now, which does have a budget version of it. So most of the time that middle ground, like the Audi A6, the BMW 5 Series, the E-Class, are all relatively well spec'd. But in actual fact, if you look at something like a Kia Ceed or something really bargain standard, Toyota Corolla, you'll find that the level of stuff that, if you look at the actual option list, they nearly have the same options in them. It doesn't really take that long. Missing anything plus gain comfort. Sorry, someone else. Robert Doyle, I do like to test the Model 3. 2 people in my estate have them, and I always look at it every single time I go by. I don't like the front. I think the front's a bit fussy or weird or something. Especially with no license plate, it looks really strange, like blank or something. It seems weird. It needs a feature or something. You know what I mean? I don't mean it needs a grille, like an air intake grille, but it needs a feature, something to break up that front. Colin F says, what's happened to the ID3? Nothing much at the moment. It's been launched to a very limited amount of people that didn't tell anyone what was happening. And it should be here before the end of the year. But now, whether it's actually on your forecourt by the end of the year, or it's just here as a test car or what, I don't know. Graham says, what's your opinion of the addition of a GPF to Euro 6 petrol engines? They will suffer like DPF and diesel, will force people into cities and short distance drives into electric. Right. So DPF is a diesel particulate filter, a GPF is a gasoline particulate filter. So particulates are what's coming down your exhaust system. They put a filter in between the exhaust and the outside world to capture heavy materials, right? So what that does is that it is just a filter. It's just a fairly standard looking, it looks like what you'd expect a filter to look, but it's not paper. So it captures the particulates. Then in a diesel version, to burn them faster, what to do is they put AdBlue in there. AdBlue lowers the temperature that those particulates can be burned at, and then a recycle system happens, and those particulates go out the back of the car, burnt at a higher temperature. So the car on a motorway or whatever will burn them at higher temperature. At the beginning of diesel particulate filters, they blocked up. People weren't driving diesels far enough, so they were driving a diesel from the door to Lidl and back again, and the car wasn't even getting warm. So these cycles never happened. And eventually the particulate filter would put a light on the dashboard, and €1,500 later you got a new particulate filter and a lesson from the gods. They have changed that, so it doesn't really happen anymore. You don't get as many particulate filters that are breaking down. GPF ones will burn particulates more regularly because petrol burns faster anyway, and the particulates coming out burn at a different rate, a higher temperature. So because petrols burn at a higher temperature all the time, you're not really going to get those problems as much, but I imagine it'll still be there. 33 and a third says car companies. That tea is lovely. Wow. Barry's tea is your only man from Cork. None of that lines muck here. 33 and a third says car companies are years behind. They've been saying for years companies will catch up. On the flip side of that, Tesla tell you everything. So I know everyone goes, Tesla's miles ahead. But actually, your man Musk goes on Twitter and tells you pretty much everything they're doing anyway, right? They're very public. That's okay. There's nothing particularly wrong with that. Car companies normally aren't, though. People die to protect the secrets of car companies. People get fired. They sign. I've signed them. Non-disclosure agreements when you're going to look at something. I've seen cars that I still can't talk about right now behind the scenes. I've seen cars. We've been allowed access to things. So car companies are insanely secret. And until they have something to show the public, they don't talk about it. They might do little spy shots or 3D renders or whatever. But usually by the time the 3D render comes out, the car is finished. Like, it's done. They're out testing it. They're finished with it. So never write off that like someone like Volkswagen thinks, this is the new Nokia. They'll be gone. That's just not true. They won't. They'll open the door one day and there will be a ID4 and it'll do 1,000 kilometers on a single charge, and they won't have said a word about it, right? That's what they tend to do. That's just from experience. That's not saying what they are going to do. Just from experience of car companies, they tend to lag behind a little bit. They're a bit slower on stuff. They tend to be nice and quiet. Ed Arnez says, caught up? I don't think so. You mean that actually have some cars to sell? Who are you talking about? Who's caught up? To have some cars to sell. Well, yeah, I suppose. We'll see about car companies whether car sell or not. Martio, ID3 launching on Wednesday 17th. The first editions can be delivered in September with some software missing, or wait till December for the fully loaded version. Software missing. Can you imagine sending a car years ago with stuff missing off it? Because of it. Yeah. Bob, do you think that Skoda removing its diesel engines from the Scout model is a bad move? Very, very small sales on the Scout stuff. Not really a bad move. The interest in diesel is falling. They're trying to get their CO2 emissions down. They want to be closer at 95 grams CO2. Because the Scout is such a limited appeal anyway, they're nearly removing it from sale by degrees. So you get rid of the diesel one. The disinterested diesel people buy some other diesel, petrol only. Then they kind of go, well, look, sales were down to maybe 10 a year, so we just stop selling it altogether. That's kind of how to do it with pretty much everything. Mark O'Reilly says, so the latest on ID3 is the following: order window opens next week on the 17th, pricing and finance options to be released, then first ID3s will be delivered in the first week of September. There you go. Multiple people telling you all that. There are some of the features that will not be available in the first delivery: app integration, Android and Apple not available yet, AR portion of HUD not enabled yet. Do you remember the Lancia Thema? I do. No, that's about right. Thema, that's about right. With the Ferrari lump, only ever seen one. There's a fella called Mad into Lancia. He's on Twitter. Can't remember his name. It'll come to you in a minute. I can't always remember. I'm terrible to remember people's names and remember names of things here in the chat. I regularly run around and that sort of stuff. That light really good, isn't it? It has a lovely warm glow to things. I think you need new batteries in the Sunday service sign. I still haven't gotten around to changing it over. I might put those lights into it. Beats sound system apparently no longer being installed due to supply issues. If someone's devices get first version with these features not enabled, they will have the first 3 months free. Wow. Anyway, Fee says that Chris Harris actually managing his own Twitter account these days. Probably some BBC intern living the dream on his behalf. No, it is Chris Harris. No, I know it is actually Chris Harris. Although there might be BBC access to it, maybe individuals have access to it. But I have really, really big followers on Twitter. Loads of them. Brian Brushwood, he's got like 2.5 million followers. Top Gear itself, Top Gear, the Twitter account follows me. People like Matt Cooper and, you know, the kind of large accounts that are out there. There's loads of them out there that actually follow. It means nothing. Honest to God, if you're ever on Twitter and you're chasing kind of getting big followers to follow you, it does nothing for your account. Zero. Zip. Even a J.R.R. Bachelor follows me, and Johnny Smith, and just loads of people. But it means nothing that they're big people with big followers. Usually people who have a lot of followers follow a lot of people as well. I on the other hand don't. Just see what's happening. 49,025. I have 49,029 subscribers. And next month the channel is 10 years old as well. 2 anniversaries coming around. 50,000, which will pass probably by the end of next week, and 10 years. What am I going to do for 10 years? Can't even go outside the bleeding. Anyway. Neil Brown. Wait no. Mark O'Reilly says direct communication with VW for feedback and all features have been out of. I read that out. Neil Brandon, I don't think VW will ever catch up with Tesla because Tesla will continuously improve at a rate that VW cannot match. A lot of hope on that one. What about Nikola Motors? How long will it take them to reach the market? Never say you don't think something's going to happen, because at some point Tesla have to make money, and I mean make a lot of money. They've so much interest, there's so much pressure on them the whole time to turn out good cars and better cars and more cars and higher productions, and there's so much pressure. It has to bend. Eventually they have to kind of, well, hang on, it's like maybe we should just work with a car company and hope for the best, like Volkswagen and Ford have done in a commercial sense for China. And you know, there's what you would call in marketing parlance of synergies that can be achieved, like Tesla's done for Alfa Romeo, right? So they've taken the CO2 from Alfa Romeo, but that also means they've access to Alfa Romeo's cars and technology, and Alfa Romeo make good handling cars, so maybe to talk to the engineers there. So there's all kinds of things that can happen in the background. I wouldn't ever say never, that they'll never be caught. I think there'll be a point where they'll change over and go into a different rate. I think really Tesla's ultimate goal would be battery technology. That's what they specialise at. They never really made cars in the first place. They bought in Lotus, they bought in bits from outside to make the cars work. It'd be great to see all the car companies succeed. I don't want jobs to be lost, but I do want a good definite future. The future is not Tesla alone, that is for sure. Mark O'Reilly, so basically all the first deliveries of ID3 would be beta testers. Isn't that gas? James Mernan says, I wouldn't mind doing camera on you. That could come out a very bad sort of a sentence right there, James. But I think you mean that you want to do the cameras. Sort of thing. If I can pay somebody, I'll bring in a camera person. I don't think people that want to. I don't think people would devote their time for free in a good way. I don't think it would grate on you, you know, because it's such a busy channel now. I make so many videos and so many comments and hundreds of things to do in a day. My wife will tell you, I'm at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, and I'm answering comments and answering questions and tweeting and preparing stuff for the next day, or writing a script or developing a documentary. There's always something happening. So I don't think someone who just wants to run a camera, you know, come along and go, I want to make a video here and there with you. But it ends up being like, well, he obviously made that video and Bob obviously made that video on his own. They look so different from one another. So you need to have that format thing. So if it comes to a point and I can pay someone, I will certainly pay day rates for a camera person to come down. Maybe someone who's good at cameras and good at a bit of editing as well. Someone who can do a little bit of multifunction rather than someone who just comes and points a camera at you and then disappears again. Sean Duffy, hi Bob. Do you know if VW auxiliary heater is available in Ireland? As far as I know, it's available, but it's an option, which I find a bit weird. Why would you option something that's nearly critical to have in an electric car? You know, because the advantage an electric car has is the ability to generate heat immediately, right? You can turn it on, and like the old-fashioned fan heater, essentially, you turn it on, an element heats up and heat comes out. You don't have to wait for an engine to warm up. So auxiliary heaters are brilliant, but I only see them being included in northern territories. So as far as I know, it's an option here, but I don't know if it'll become a standard in the car. 33 and a third says a diesel car continuously pollutes every day. Electric is getting cleaner by the day. Coal stations are closing. Wind and solar is growing by the day, making electric cleaner. Yep, we know all that, yeah. But that doesn't mean that CO2, that Tesla isn't emitting CO2. It's not about how the power is generated. I understand, because like I live in the Midlands, we have 3 peat-fired power stations in the area that are closing over time. Peat-fired means that they are destroying million-year-old bogs to burn it to make electricity. Right, so it seems insane, but it's been going on for years, and they're going to close them down over the next few years. But it doesn't mean that we're replacing them with something that's just as renewable. We need something that's renewable. We need something that we can generate and we'll be sure of. If you walk out there today, there is no wind. Nothing. Not a breeze. We were up in Slee Blue Mountains yesterday walking across it. Honest to God, did it in a t-shirt. Strolled across the top. Grey sky above us. Not a breeze. So wind generation over at least those 2 days is at 0. So what makes up the shortfall when that happens regularly, when that happens often? Solar. So what happens on a day like today where it's just grey? We get 25% of the solar output we should get on a sunny day, maybe even less. So it's scary to start thinking about that. That requires a lot of thought to make sure that happens. How much energy does it take to make diesel? No idea. Probably not very much these days, because it's such a force of nature that petrol and diesel have been around for like that 100 years. They've had to develop, so it probably doesn't generate a whole lot of problems actually. Mini eggs. Are we buying any car and similar companies worth using? Are we buying any car? Buy any car. Sorry, the one from the UK, buyanycar.com. No, they control the market a bit like CEX here. You know those electronic companies? You see little shops in your town where they, you walk in, you got your PlayStation 4 and you want to get some cash back for it, and you walk in, oh, that'll be €5 they're going to give you for it, or €3 and some sort of voucher you can never use. It's nonsense. Really what they're doing is setting the market value. They're really just telling you this is what your car is worth. I'd sell my car secondhand rather than any of that sort of crap. Just hit 49,000 subs, jumped from 48,900 there. Yeah, I know, it's funny how it jumps up in hundreds. Jay Schultz says, I've just unsubscribed since it's rubbish. Yes, Tesla is shipped overseas, but once they get there, they are not polluting in cars. See how the justification happens. Bye, Jay, you won't be missed. As an ICE car, you do not know that they're talking about goodbye. Goodbye, Jay. Good luck. Don't let the door hit you in the arse on the way out. Have fun now. You see, it's that justification that really bothers me. People just aren't logical about these things. They don't want to hear the negative because they only see the positive. And it's a bit like parodies. This kind of parody of something that's lost these days. People don't know how to parody anymore. They don't understand when someone's making a laugh of something, which is why Faulty Towers is taken offline. Why what's that other show called that I used to like as well? There's loads of shows in the UK that parodied or blackfaced over the years, which of course is wrong, but you can't change history, and unless history stands, you never learn from it. So unless you leave history alone and tell the truth about it, you can't improve yourself because you never knew what happened. A lot of young people who are in the car industry now that I deal with every day were 8 years old or 7 years old when the financial crash happened in 2008, and the first thing they knew about the damage it was done was my video. It's insane. They're not studying this stuff at all, and that's like 10 years ago, so it's mad. Anyway, good luck, Jay. Enjoy that. James Connolly, the original Metro Golden Lion roar came from a lion in Dublin Zoo. I've read that before, actually. That's really interesting stuff. That's true. I've seen that in a few different places, so I hope it's true. But yeah, it seems to be, I'm not quoting lies like. Paul O'Connor says, as a qualified mechanic, do we get more room to type in more characters? I don't know, actually, to be honest with you. I haven't a clue, Paul. I know your name gets highlighted on the screen, so I can't miss it. That's for sure. I'm not going to miss those because they come up like a big green with a big S behind it, which is kind of cool. Eric Rocher says, estate over SUV all day long. For one thing, just watch any video of how an SUV reacts to a side impact. They can actually flip over, yeah, because they're a little bit taller. Centre of gravity's higher, so they're a bit weird like that. We don't always have to be sheep and follow what everyone else is doing. It's a fashion thing. Fashion is cyclical. We've gone through this before. You know, big SUVs were popular in like the noughties because people wanted to have something brash. Big Land Rovers and things in like 2005, 2004. Everybody wanted to drive around in a Defender or a Range Rover Vogue. So we've gone through this before. It's just we're looking at these eco-mentalists now who want to buy an SUV that's electric. And it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, Matt Byrne, what's going to happen to the second-hand market when 2021 rolls around? Extra cost of VAT on import duty, etc. Is the day of importing going to disappear? That's what the hope of the car industry is in Ireland. And that's what the hope of the government is, that you all stop importing cars from the UK. But the simple fact is, if we just got rid of VRT or balanced out the system and tried to compete, at least a little bit of competition with the UK, then it wouldn't be a problem anyway. The problem is what they do, instead of trying to tell you how it should happen and what you should do and trying to balance the market out, they just put a tax on your import. And so it's an awful pain in the hole, actually, what really goes on. So it's the government's fault. They created it. Actually, it's Bertie Ahern's fault. He invented VRT. They brought it in as a way to get rid of block exemption. And if you know what block exemption is, you're old now. Right, sorry. Moving on. Harry Badger, who I know very well, says, "Hey Bob, did I hear you correctly when you said you'd take the Skoda Superb Estate over Skoda Kodiaq? Currently, yes, I would. Yeah, Skoda Kodiaq is absolutely phenomenal, but I don't need one. I don't need a big 4x4, and I certainly don't need 7 seats or any of that sort of stuff in the car. I have 2 kids, so I just need 4 seats. So I would pick a Superb Estate because it would suit my daily needs. And that's just for my own purpose, not necessarily what I advise other people to buy. I tend to look at their situation, what they like, what they dislike, what would suit them, what works for them. So chances are maybe a Kodiaq might work for you, but just for my own personal needs, I'd pick a Superb Estate currently. I might even pick that PHEV one, which I will have in the near future, and I will do that test that I promised. I still get text messages from Skoda going, "You really going to do that test?" Yep. This week, 2 tyres, €165 each, puncturing one, bulging the other. Tyres are a stress purchase. You only buy them when it's time for an NCT or they're burst. That's really when anyone else buys them. So the vast majority of people don't check the price of a tyre when they're buying the car. And so when it comes around to actually buying them, to go, "Oh my god, it's €500 for 4 tyres." Jared Hewitt, another man I know very well. That tyre thing could be great, like a quiz where you put up the car and we guess the price of the tyres. Get Keith on the show for a tenure. That would be gas. Can you imagine Keith Duffy sitting here in the office with me? Right, Keith, how much is the tyres for an 06 Seat Leon? I'd love that. That'd be so funny. Somebody call Keith Duffy, for God's sake. 33 Her says, "With due respect, you need to do some research on new battery technology. Much of what you're talking about is outdated." Is it though? Is it outdated like last week or last month or last year? That is the biggest problem that the electric car faces right now, is every time you open your mouth, you're out of date. Every time you have an opinion about an electric car, someone comes on and goes, "You know what? You're wrong, because in Australia they managed to get 1,000,000 kilometers from some battery thing in the..." Like that. The technology changed like that, and people can't keep up, and it puts people off the whole time. Which is why you can go uptown and buy a brand new Android phone for £100, because nobody cares a toss about technology anymore. Nobody cares. They're dirt, just disposable nearly. And the more of that sort of punching down that people do. Do you ever hear that expression, punching down, where someone goes, "You know what, I think you should just go out there and do some research and find out for yourself." And these comments that I get as well on some of the videos going, "Nikola Tesla did not invent AC." That's it. You go, "Well, who did it?" So, you know, there's a lot of that. So the outdated thing could be outdated by a week, by a month. Which part are you talking about? What are you talking about? What part needs updating? What's out there that's absolutely brand new to be I don't know about yet? Depends on your needs. If you sit all day on Facebook, you'll find out everything that you really want to know and half the things you don't want to know. And before you know it, you're running around like a spare idiot, think you know everything. That's what happens. That's what happens on Facebook, because Facebook just feeds you stuff you don't know yet. James Conley, if car manufacturers stop making ICE, would the existing ICE cars become more sought after? That's something we don't know, to be honest with you. Could do. What happens in a few years' time when we get to peak electricity, 2035, and like 75% of cars are road electricity, and somebody goes, you know what, this electricity thing is really bad for the environment. It emits a gas and we didn't know about it. It poisons the entire world. And all of a sudden, your petrol and diesel car becomes really sought after because electric is dangerous. We do this every 100 years, every 50 to 100 years. We look at something and go, that's dangerous. We did it with nuclear. We invented it. Everybody created a nuclear plant. Most countries run on nuclear plants. And then, oh, hang on a second, there, Chernobyl just melted down. No, it's dangerous now. We don't want one of them. We just go around each of the technologies. Every one of them is the same. Nickel batteries, wet batteries, the pollutants on them is terrible. Oil is terrible. Oil was brilliant once, but it's terrible now. It happens every once in a while. Again, you're wrong. Batteries become more dense. Sure they are. Yep, that's generally what happens. They get more dense and you get a little bit further from them and you get more technology from them, and they get heavier and the cars get bigger and you get massive yokes like the Audi Q, whatever it's called, the e-tron, which is 3.5, nearly 4 tons weight. Jaguar I-Pace, everybody loves that yoke. It's barely on the road. It's already got problems all over the place. The battery's out of date, and all the Teslas are getting bigger and further, aren't they? They're getting more dense batteries and going further. But what about the ones that already exist? What are we supposed to do with all of them? Juliet KPR, hi host, just dropping in to say hello to all of you. Hi host. Hi ho, hi ho. It's off to work we go. I wonder if you work in PR there, Juliet. Annie McAfee, Royal Jordanian, yeah, that's right, put up a video the other day that's just a compilation of reactions to his exhaust. It's pure ear porn. That's what I lodged onto him for. It got a bit more extended than just his exhaust, but I actually lodged on because of his Husqvarna Nuda, which is Husqvarna, the company that make lawnmowers and robot lawnmowers and things like that. They made a motorbike once upon a time called a Husqvarna Nuda, and he put a special exhaust on it, and the noise of that thing is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Love it. John McLennan says, no option to join your YouTube here in the US, just subscribe. No way. Does join not working? I didn't know that. Well, that's a new one on me. You can always become a patron. There is Patreon links down below if you wish. Mike Connolly, Bob, what do you think? Did I skip on there somewhere? No, I did. Hold on. I skipped there. Something happened because it was definitely, I read out someone else. There's the camera. Talk amongst yourselves. Be back in a minute. There it is. Nick O. 2 electric bicycles passed me the other day at St. Vincent's Hospital, both doing more than 50 kilometers an hour. They are speed restricted when you buy them, but I think it's fairly easy to defeat them. Now, in fairness, I cycle a normal bicycle, a race bicycle. It's a carbon fiber. I think it's carbon fiber. Anyway, it's a Skoda bike. It has Skoda written on it, like. And I've done about 82 kilometers an hour on that yoke. Downhill now in a race. We did a race up in Drogheda, and myself and a fella called Ray were going downhill, and we were slipstreaming, and we were going a little bit over 80 kilometers an hour. So you can do over 50 it would be okay to do over 50 on a standard bicycle without any assistance. So the battery powered bicycles assist up to a point, so eventually you're going fast enough that they don't assist anymore. That's what happens. So you can only assist between 2 points, and they're really good. But it's funny when you're on I did a sportif last year in the Slieve Blue Mountains, and we got to this one particular hill which is like real vertical. I'm on a standard bike, but we're going uphill like this, and this woman, she had to be in her 60s, went by me, bloody electrically assisted bitch. Could have thrown me water bottle at her. I was wrecked. Sweat was pouring down my face. Just goes, hi. That was funny. Juliet KPR, awesome topic, stay healthy. Juliet PR must be a spam yoke, some sort of a yoke. Back to work done. Thumbs up on your great channel. Thanks very much, Juliet. Mike Conley, Bob, what do you think about importing from the UK now with all going on? PCP is up at the end of the year and would love to know your thoughts on importing. I'm not sure I'll go PCP again next year. So there's benefits and drawbacks to PCP. Just touching on PCP for a second. Benefit is, you know where you're going to be in 3 years time, right? So the car, and in 5 years time, you know how much the car is going to be worth. You've got a set amount of money that car is going to be worth on the way out. So for some, that gives a reassurance that the car will definitely be worth that on the way out. The drawback of PCP is you're stuck with the company that you bought the car from until you pay off the balloon payment at the end, right? You're stuck with that dealership. You must obey their rules during that time. So there is a drawback in that sense. If you import something for yourself from the UK, of which you'll probably get a deal or two at the moment, they're doing a few deals. If you got something from the UK and brought it in, it's yours. That's that. You bought it through the bank or whatever. You can do whatever you want with it. It's entirely your car at that point. That's not to say I want to do out dealerships in this country out of money, but you know, if the deal is good and it's worth importing and the VRT is not nailing you to the wall, it's definitely, I would definitely go that route. I do advise people with PCPs to go for them if they have a current financial problem, if they think that their job might end in 3 years' time, particularly young people getting their first job, need a car. You know, if things go wrong in 3 years' time, you just hand the keys back, the car is gone, and you're not going to be nailed for the rest of your life, not being able to get any more finance after that, you know. Andy McPhee says, ironically, the ad YouTube played joining today for me was when I changed to an Irish VPN server, was an ad for importing cars from the UK. Was that your man, the guy with the tattoos all down the back of his hand? Chasing Cars or something he's called. No, not Chasing Cars. I don't know what he's called. There's a guy that does, an English guy that does this thing about, he quotes headlines from the Irish Times and everything in it. And I've seen it a million times. It comes up all the time on my channel. Loving your Tesla insurance and bunker oil rant. Bunker, I see. Jeff likes it. There, we'll keep going because Jeff is part of the demographic of this channel. So we will keep going talking about things like Tesla and bunker oils. Anyway, Paul O'Connor, we might not need cars if Star Trek transporters invented. God, would you do it? I read a book and I can't remember what it's called now. It was a long time ago. It was a short story and it was about those kind of transporters. So essentially this guy had invented transporters so you could just go anywhere in the world just by putting in a number, like dialing a number on a telephone, and you go zoom. But actually what was happening was it was duplicating you and destroying the first you. So it would copy you like a photocopier and you'd be sent to the other end and the first version of you was killed, destroyed. And then something went wrong and it didn't kill the first one, so now there's two of you, and there was all kinds of really good science fiction book, and I can't remember the name of it now, but it was a really good book. Paul Dunn says 49,000 subscribers at the moment. I wonder when it'll hit the big 5-0. I don't know when that is. What are we at now? Let me look. 49,031. So we're gaining subscribers at a rate of knots, spice. There's been at least maybe 100 or so in the last day, I think. Anyway, McPhee says, what tea goes on? It's Barry's tea. I'm the tea drinker in the house, by the way. The wife is the coffee drinker. I love coffee, but first thing in the morning when I get up, unless I go to a hotel, I need tea. If I go to a hotel, I tend to get English breakfast tea because it's the only thing to understand when you want tea. Coffee's always better overseas anyway. And but here in the house, it is Barry's tea because it's just like addiction in a cup. That's what it is, essentially. Andrew Palmer says, love the documentaries. Please make more brilliant shows. Unification needs to happen long time since I was in Ireland in the 70s. In the bad times, you'd have gone mental in this country. It's sad. Unification is a more complicated factor, I think, than it could possibly ever be. There's so many different dynamic bits to it. Even if you just remove all of the political aspects, there's the physical thing. The Northern Ireland has the NHS. We don't have that down here. They have a different currency. We don't have that down here either. They have a lot of English retailers that we don't have. They don't work down this end. There's a different insurance companies. There's different taxes. There's different, all kinds of income is different. A lot of Northern Ireland people are employed in government jobs. We don't have that many government jobs down here. So there's a lot of, even just taking out all the political aspects, you're left with a lot of complicated stuff. Anyway, Fee says, we'll go with the regular drip method. If YouTube is skimming too much this time, say the word and we'll revert back to my old PayPal ways. Could be. I don't know what the take is, to be honest with you, off one or the other. It could be anything. YouTube take what they take. But there's a tipping point. There's a point where enough people are members or enough people are Patreon that you don't really need anymore. You know, there will come out a tipping point to it. When Chris Harris first got the job on Top Gear, he was here on YouTube first. I was asked to do a little background on him for the newspaper. And at that time, in Patreon, his Patreon account was generating $8,575 a month. Just so you know, that's where he was getting money now. That's how he gave that up for Top Gear. he very, very quickly after joining Top Gear closed that Patreon and just got rid of it. But I actually, because that was my task, it was my job at the time, I was hired to write an article about him that was in it. That's how I remember it. Anna McPhee says, I got out for a spin in a newish car yesterday for the first time. Senior car, was lovely actually, for the odd commute since buying a good couple of hours filling up the old DPF. Another old trip to walk the dog today is good. Thomas Heiler says, I live in New Orleans. I had to drive 5 or 6 hours in my direction to have access to any dealerships that sell EVs or PHEVs. That's why I watch your channel. Thanks for the info. Enjoy your tea. You see, in bigger countries, we're ideal. Ireland's ideal for electric cars, because even like the shortest range could probably get you to Dublin, from here in the Midlands. Because Portlaoise is geographically, if you look at a map, Portlaoise is basically in the centre of the country. Limerick is an hour that way, one or the other, and Dublin's an hour that way. So we're kind of in the dead centre of the country. But so I could, even in like the lowest powered Nissan Leaf, I could probably get pretty handy down to Limerick and come back again. Mark Turner Smith says, yes, think it's bad move from Skoda or moving TDIs from the Skoda Octavia Scouts. They've been a stablemate rapid response vehicle for many ambulance services for years. Good yokes. Do you remember the best looking police car I'd ever seen was the Volvo V90? Was it V90 or V60? One of them. Beautiful looking thing as a police car. Aidan Kelly says, hi Aidan. Elliot Keane, hi Bob, what are your thoughts on the Jaguar I-Pace? I quite like it. Just watch out for them old software issues. It had some problems. The one I had here was in great shape, but then I'm told by another journalist that it wouldn't fast charge. It just wouldn't take. You plug it in and it would go, it's connected, but there was no charge going in. And then another journalist pointed out that it wouldn't take a proper 22 kilowatt charge. It would only take 7.5 kilowatt. But I plugged it in here and it worked fine on the fast charger uptown. But then it didn't seem to work for someone else when it went out. So software charging problems again. But it was a great car to drive. Brilliant. Range is deadly. Handling's very good. It feels like a car company have made an electric car, if you know what I mean. It feels like a really genuine go at an electric car. But whether you can get one or not is the problem at the moment. Anna McPhee says, you can see the crack starting to appear in the Tesla's operating capital when they got Homer Simpson to design a Cybertruck. Yeah, it's true. Suitable TDI is state choice becoming more of a problem as the ambulance service RV stablemate for paramedics. Mark Turner Smith is a paramedic. Mark Daly, you can't bait old Barry's tea, Bob. You can't make your dead right. Has to be Barry's, no question. You see, Barry's is it, boys. Made in Cork. Well, the tea is obviously not made in Cork. We don't grow tea in Ireland, but it's packed in Cork and sold here in Ireland. Sean Dove says, I've always gathered up around 12 grand to buy a 4 or 5 year old diesel car doing about 25,000 miles per year, then sell them for peanuts. Should I keep doing the same or go down the finance route for a newer car? No, keep doing the same thing, Sean. If you can, I'm a huge fan of owning 50% of your car, right? At least 50% of your car. So if you're going to buy a 20 grand car, that should come with 10 grand of your own money. So you're going into finance owning already half the car. So that two things happen there. One is the finance company can't repossess it on you, right? Because it's now you own half the car anyway. And the minute you start making a couple of payments, you now own more than half the car. But the other part happens is that when you go to sell it, you already have that capital investment in the car. So I'm a big fan of owning half, at least half. So if you can gather up the full total price of a car that you can run for 12 or 4 or 5 years, a car owes you nothing at that point, right? You've done all the mileage, you've generated all the guff on it. So yeah, definitely keep buying cars that way if you can. Johnny Dubb, no, he's answered someone else's question. Hughes Events. Brilliant. What events you do, Hughes Events? Love the Sunday service, and the Tesla doc was superb. Thank you very much. More documentaries on the way. I've already begun pre-production on 4. And another thing I want to get out there today as well, I am looking for people who have a classic or vintage car that has a history. Not a yoke you bought last week on adverts and you have it at your house. Possibly something that has been handed down to you across the years, or something you've inherited, or maybe your great grandfather drove it, or maybe it was owned by a president of the United States, or whatever it is, right? Someone in Ireland, I want to come and make a video about your car and about you and creating a new series, a documentary series for YouTube, for here. And it's all about classic cars. the story of the car. So if you have one and you know what it is, I'm not looking to drive it or anything else. I just want the car so I can tell the history of the car. It'll be an interesting little episode. Been developing that in the background for a long time now. It's my wife's idea as well. She came up with some suggestions on that one, and now I'm going to make that happen. So that's if you get in touch, bobflav@thenextgear.com. If you have a car, your car, don't recommend someone else's car, tell them to get in touch with me, right? Just get there. Paul O'Connor says, if you can get your 50,000 subscribers to join the channel as a qualified mechanic like me, that's 250 grand a month. Yep, see, if I got everyone who watched this channel to give €1, I would have 22 million euro. That's how many views this channel has. It's crazy. It looks weird now because I've deleted some of the older videos, or some of the ones that were hanging about there with a bad smell on them. Didn't make any sense because there was copyright infringement and there was copyright music on them and all sorts of stuff hanging around. So just deleted the things. They're ancient videos anyway. Hi Bob, what do you think of the e-space tour? Interesting idea that, Dinny, actually. I kind of like vans that would be an electric, a passenger van that, you know, you could tip about in all the time, doing the shopping with the kids and get everything done and come home and just charge it up. It makes sense. Now, as a commercial investment, as a taxi or something, I don't know, it's kind of heavy, you know. And then when you put like 9 people in, it becomes kind of a very heavy thing. Hughes Event says the Lion's name was Slats, worked for MGM 1924 to 28, only for 4 years. Johnny Dub says majority gobbled up by YouTube. You know, they provide the platform, they provide everything. There's not much you can do about it. You get an advertising cut, you do your best that you can on YouTube, but like, where else do I put out the content? What else do you do? All the eyeballs are on YouTube. I mean, you can make a documentary for Netflix right now and absolutely no one watches it. You know, the only hope you get paid, that's it. Whereas here, at least people watch the thing. Like 70,000 people or something have watched Diesel Dead York. I think it's 70,000. Can't remember. A lot. Richard Burns. Yeah, here we go. Right, nearly there. Richard Burns says, hi Bob, thanks Richard Byrne. Carl King, any talk of swapping us into driving the right hand side would make imports from Spain possible in cars. God, no one in Ireland wants that apart from me. There'd be carnage on the road, but I reckon we could do it. Like, everything else would be natural selection. The deaths would go up very quickly on road deaths, and the RSA would blow a gasket. But that's pretty much all that would happen. Then after a few weeks we'd all settle down, we'd all drive on the other side of the road. Very straightforward, really. It's not that hard. Sure, you know, they would have died anyway. Harry Badger says, cool Bob, cheers for the feedback. Would you recommend the PHEV Skoda Estate for someone who does 60k anna per year? No, get a diesel. Get a diesel, 60,000 miles a year. No, cost you a bleeding fortune in petrol. As good as those PHEVs are, after 70k they're just a hybrid, and then you're on petrol. That's it. That's, you know, you have to charge them up to get the best out of them. PHEVs are for really short journeys. They work over really short journeys for sure. Long journeys are still you have to go to the end of Tesla to kind of get the long range electric stuff, or diesels. That's kind of where it has to be. Rob says, hi Bob, I've been watching your videos since the Audi A6 by TDI review years back. Wow. Bought one at a time, still enjoy the car. Sleeper, any advice on classic car storage? What a car. The bi-turbo Audi had at that time. The noise that yoke made was outstanding. Classic car storage, if you're going to store your own car, all you have to really worry about is to be dry. That's really, 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 the damp kills old cars. They murder them. It perishes all of the plastics and the rubbers. It perishes all the electrical stuff, and it all starts to fall apart. So really it's dryness you're after. Now you can actually go hermetically sealed classic car storage, which is like hermetically seals, no oxygen in the room. There's all kinds of ways you can get it done, but really all you want to do is get the tires off the ground if you're going to store it for a long time, and keep it dry. That's essentially it. Keep a breeze coming through the garage. Don't seal it shut. Don't seal your garage like a fridge. It's helpful to have gaps so breeze can actually pass through, but no rain. Keep it out of rain. Don't put it under plastic either. Byron says, diesel 60,000 kilometers a year, lad. You're definitely right. Richard Byrne, hi Bob, does your mate still have his S-Class? Wet myself laughing at that video. Does he still sitting it naked? Probably does. Don't know, I haven't talked to him in ages because of the lockdowns. We haven't really been talking. He's making his own videos there as well. But I'm sure he still has, but I think he might have went to a TT or something as well. He got a TT. I think I've seen a picture of that somewhere. I have Keith's number, says Byron. Give him a phone there. Tell him to come down here to Portlaoise. Sit in here and we'll talk tyres. We'll talk tyres and we'll try and get him to guess how much a tyre is for each car, and we'll look it up on the website and see if he's right. Adrian MG53 says, afternoon Bob, my new bicycle ride this week. I've had my first ride for nearly 50 years. It's great now, there's less traffic this time. Very exhilarating. I wish we'd bought one 20 years ago. You see, I've been a cyclist since I was tiny. My father used to tell a story of me when I was 4, I think, and he bought a bike and it had stabilizers in the back, and I had one cycle on it, and I said, take the stabilizers off, and he said, he lifted them, and I said, no, take them off, and I took them off, and I never used stabilizers from that moment onwards. I had them on for one single cycle, and there's a story he used to tell, at parties and out and all that sort of stuff. But I've always cycled, always had a bike, always cycled everywhere. Then cars came at like 16, 17 got a license. Cars, end of story. Did not put cars, but always had a bike in the background. So bikes are brilliant. Brilliant. And I honest to God, I still cycle. We still cycle up to town to go shopping and go to the post office and do stuff like that. We still cycle. It's awful though, you can't just leave your bike somewhere without someone wanting to steal it on you or take it. It's terrible, really pain in the hole. Mick Daly, do you know Mr. Graham Bell's first go at inventing the telephone was complete flop until he invented a second one? True story. And you know that Thomas Edison's least famous invention is actually his most useful invention, which is the electric chair. He invented that as a way of giving people a nicer death than hanging. The idea, well, he'd seen people being hanged in America, and he wanted to give them a better death, so he invented the electric chair. So Thomas Edison invented the electric chair. Martin Lyons says, great show, Bob. I learn something every time I listen to you. Priem. Come on, Matt, and thanks for being a mechanic there. Patrick B, my prediction is that electric battery run cars are just a stepping stone to fuel cell cars. When the technology is ready for the mass market, hydrogen will be far more friendly to the environment. It is to some degree. It's still hard to get it done. The problem is everybody's pilfering a little bit of investment. So investments going like a big shotgun blast, it's going everywhere, instead of focusing on one or two things at a time. So hydrogen, I think, will have a commercial future for sure. I think hydrogen will come to trucks and ferries and boats and ships and things, because it makes sense to have that, to be able to carry a gigantic amount of fuel in a smaller space or in a larger space available within trucks. But for passenger vehicles, I think electric cars will still make a lot of sense, although we could charge up in a different way. Maybe the charge will come from solar, maybe the charge will come from a hydrogen station, that will generate electricity into batteries. So there's a lot going on in that field. Matt Lyons says, preemptive congratulations on the 50,000 subscriptions. Time to keep it up. I will keep it up, that is for sure. I'm not going to stop now, taking this long. I will have a party this year at some point, if the restrictions lift, of course, over time. Something will lift, but we are going to have a physical meetup. There will be a physical point where we meet up and do stuff. Okay, so I will arrange that once we know that everything's lifted and we know it's safe to do so. Because the last thing we want to do is infect anybody. Get someone to come along and infect us with something. Annie McPhee says, I will send you a clip of my bike starting inside the MOT centre after tests. Sounds so good. I love that. Tony, yes, Bob, Ford Focus ST3 or Volkswagen R? I think to drive every day, I'd go with the Ford Focus ST. Volkswagen R is a handful. It's a great car, brilliant car. You can actually get them fairly reasonably now because they're four-wheel drive. People don't necessarily want them, but ST3 would if you want something to commute every day to work, ST3. But I'd prefer to see a Volkswagen R type or outside. Be nicer, I missed that word. Move forward. Regarding that sci-fi book, there is a TV series on Amazon or Netflix with the same idea. Is there? Probably based on the same book. In fairness, there's a book I read in the 80s, so a very old book. John McLennan, on the flip side, we're shipping cars. Think of all the cars shipped from Europe to the US and California would be 100 times more, plus California to Europe, the ships were going back empty before Tesla. Were they though? I can't imagine. Like trucks in in Ireland have a system where they're never empty. You know, you never see a truck driving around with no trailer on the back unless it's going to pick up a trailer. Reason. So I can't imagine any ships sailing with nothing on board. They'll always have something. The Lancia GTA, that's a good name. Fan from South Africa. Do you think Alfa Romeo will see 2025 as an Alfasti? I highly doubt it. I don't think so. Not unless they're saved by Ferrari or some. They've survived everything. Alfa Romeo have survived everything. But I think at this stage, the investment, the jump to go from where they are to what people actually want as a normal car is gargantuan. It's a massive investment level, and nobody in Italy has that kind of money, really. So it's going to be a tough ask. Pat Mulligan saying bye now. Might be a bit. Butcher says I might be a bit late, but he's already has taken the point. But with new dash cam, what is the difference in micro SD cards have 16 gigabyte, but say need to go up to 32 gigabyte as recording 2K front camera and 1K in the back? You're looking for speeds. Do I have one handy? No, I don't think I have one here. So you're looking for class 10 cards. If you're looking at SD cards, you want the highest class. It's just a little tiny circle, and it'll say 10 in the middle of it, or it'll say 11 or 12 or 15 or 20. But you're looking for at least class 10 cards. It's the data rate, the rate of data that gets written to the card at any one time. You need the highest speed card. The actual size of the card doesn't matter so much. It doesn't matter if it's 16 or 32 or 64. 64 gigabyte cards are quite cheap these days. You're talking about maybe €6 or €7. So go online. There's a crowd called mymemory.ie or mymemory.co.uk. Look them up there. Look for class 10 SanDisk mini SD cards. Buy a couple. Get a couple of them. They'll come, and you'll be able to use them. But it's the data rate is what it is. The speed of data that's been pushed onto the card. It's the class that matters on those. Very straightforward. Any other questions that I haven't addressed yet? I have a caught up news. Field party. Bag of cans and tents and a barbecue. We will have a party, yeah, for sure. In the centre of a racetrack, please. Good show again. Stay safe all. My plan, and I'm talking to a racetrack, is to actually have a meeting at a racetrack. So I am talking to a number of racetracks at the moment. There's not that many to choose from, but I will try my best to see if we can do something at a racetrack with some events and invite everybody along to. We'll have some digital racing, and we'll try and get something on a track as well, and we'll meet up, and hopefully we'll do it this year. But that's it could be a bit of an ask. It might end up being September, October, November, which is, well out of season at that point. It'd be freezing cold. So you might have to put off next year, but we'll try. But don't forget to support wherever you possibly can. It'd be really good. Of course, the new join and memberships that are here on YouTube. PayPal is always welcome. It's the best way to actually support the channel if you want to just give a single amount of money, because essentially with the PayPal thing, nearly all of it comes my way rather than nearly all of it going to YouTube or to Patreon. Patreon is there as well. If you can support that way, any way you want is always welcome. But the best and free way for you to support is to subscribe, so we can get over the 50,000 mark and we'll have a bit of fun. During next week, I will release the video on the Passat, which is a documentary on what made the Passat such an interesting car to begin with. That's definitely going to happen. I have it written. Literally just have to film the thing, which is going to happen not tomorrow. I have to go swap cars tomorrow, but probably on Tuesday. So I'll have it out on Wednesday or Thursday. Also next week to be a video on, I hope to film that Audi Q3 if it doesn't thunderstorm out there right now. I'll film that today and have that out during the week as well as 2 videos next week. I'll be back again for Father's Day. Don't forget, next Sunday is Father's Day. Don't let that slip your mind if your daddy's still up and about and running around the place. If not, and you're a father, stay in bed. Get your kids to make you some breakfast and get into bed with you and relax and take it easy and eat your breakfast and, do the stuff. Have a scratch and turn over and go back to sleep. It's always good. But that's next Sunday. I will be here next Sunday as well. Don't fear. Even though it's Father's Day, I will be here and I will do the Sunday service with you as always, because we're still partially in lockdown. Break coming in a couple of weeks' time, but it'll be okay. It'll be fine. Enjoy yourself. Take it easy. Don't forget about the Facebook page and all those other pages are out there as well. Look after yourself. Take it nice and slow over the next few days. Ease yourself back into a bit of work. And make sure you mind the head, mind the body. It's been an absolute joy to be here with you again this week for 2.5 hours. But until the next time, I will see you on the far side.